Good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to this morning's August 17th meeting of the Mojave County Board of Supervisors. We're going to start the meeting today with an invocation led by Michael Bell, and if you'd remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance led by Supervisor Borelli. Thank you.
Good morning. Let us pray. Almighty God, the Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, praise, glory, and honor belong to you. For you are our Creator, Sustainer, and Savior, and it is for your name's sake that we call upon you today. Yahweh, let your mighty name be glorified by what this board decides today. Elohim, we ask that you give your hand of blessing on this board, this meeting, and upon the whole of this county. Holy Spirit, protect all of its workers and its inhabitants. May this place be one of blessing and prosperity. Bless us now, Almighty God. In the name of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, I pray. Amen.
Amen. Ladies and gentlemen, please face the flag of a country that has brought more prosperity to the world than mankind has ever known. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hurrah. Carry on.
Board of Supervisors may, by motion, recess into executive session to receive legal advice from the board's attorneys on any item contained in this agenda pursuant to ARS 38-431.03A3, 4, and 7. Looking for a motion and action to call for an executive session to be held on September 8th, 2026 at 9 a.m.
So moved.
For that motion and second, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes appear to have it. Do have it. So ordered. Thank you. Official business to come before the board. Item number 1, discussion of pending or contemplated litigation, claims, and demands. Attorney Chavez.
Good morning, Chairman. Nothing to report today. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Item number 2, committee and/or legislative reports. We'll start with Supervisor Martin this morning.
Thank you, Chairman. I just want to take a quick point. My son's here visiting from Oklahoma. He wanted to see how government works in Mojave County, and I was hoping we'd have a full house, but unfortunately we don't. But I appreciate him coming out from Oklahoma to watch how we do things in Arizona and Mojave County. So that's it.
Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Borelli. Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Nothing to report today.
Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Lettman.
Mr. Chairman, I had the pleasure of attending last Thursday another America 250 event at the Kingman Public Library. I want to congratulate again library staff and all the volunteers and the Friends of the Library for what they did. And Manager Strahl, terrific job on your opening remarks. And Laura, excellent work on procuring those Constitution, Declaration of Independence. And we'll look forward to seeing where we're going to permanently place those. That's it, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor. I'll read into the record just a brief water update. We'll start with the Colorado. Well, first of all, I did attend the Arizona Water Law Super Conference last week, Thursday, Friday. Was also honored to be part of the faculty as on the second day, Friday, as a panelist on the Arizona groundwater issue. We'll start this morning with the Colorado River. Lake Powell currently sits at approximately 3,520 feet, which is 30 feet above minimum power pool. Lake Mead is approximately 1,040 feet, which is the lowest it has been since the reservoir was filled. It will continue to recede a little bit, probably till September, October. The federal final environmental impact statement established a 10-year framework that will require the lower basin states to reduce Colorado River use by as much as 3 million acre-feet annually. Arizona, California, and Nevada have proposed annual reductions for 2027 and 2028, totaling 1.25 million acre-feet, with Arizona offering approximately 760,000 acre-feet annually. California proposed 440,000 acre-feet over those 2 years, and Nevada 50,000 acre-feet. That was the lower basin states' proposal. However, not necessarily Arizona's final federal obligation, as we all know now. We'll know precisely what the reductions require when the Bureau of Reclamation publishes its record of decision. the Upper Basin states successfully convinced the federal government in the EIS that they should not be subject to any mandatory cuts or reductions. So the takeaway is really that the responsibility for balancing the Colorado River's deficit is currently placed exclusively on the shoulders of Arizona, California, and Nevada. That makes litigation in front of the Supreme Court of the United States increasingly likely. I heard that several times last week at the water conference, as Arizona is approaching a point where it has very little left to lose and potentially something to gain by presenting its legal arguments to the U.S. Supreme Court. The Mojave County Water Authority and all of its member communities are actively working together to protect our on-river supplies as Arizona determines how its reductions in 2027 and 2028 will be allocated internally within the state of Arizona. Our on-river communities depend upon the Colorado River as their only meaningful water supply. Their water supply cannot simply become another source for meeting Central Arizona's demands. I'd like to pivot to a new program that's being discussed currently in the water world. It's called the Secure Water Arizona Program. Acronym is SWAP. Arizona's proposed SWAP program is a voluntary framework intended to create emergency reserves and facilitate water sharing arrangements among cities, tribes, irrigation districts, and other water users. The Mojave County Water Authority remains interested in the SWAP program, but it has not committed to participate in the program until its board can complete its review. For an on-river community such as Bullhead City to participate, it will need to create qualifying intentionally created surplus through conserved effluent. Before participating, Mojave County Water Authority must determine whether that water can be legally created, quantified, and recognized under state and federal rules, and whether the program could result in water conserved along the river being recovered or used elsewhere in Arizona. No participation should occur until those legal protections are clear. The Mojave County Water Authority Board formally approves participation in the SWAP program, and our on-river communities receive local direct benefit without weakening their existing supplies or surrendering their local control. We'll pivot to the Wallapai Valley Basin. The Wallapai Valley irrigation non-expansion area and its restrictions remain in effect. Oral arguments before the Arizona Arizona Court of Appeals on August 6th went well from Mojave County's perspective and the perspective of our water attorneys at Clark Hill, and we are now waiting for the Arizona Court of Appeals to publish its decision. The basin continues to face an estimated annual groundwater deficit of approximately 50,474 acre feet a year. Agricultural demand is estimated at 44,252 acre feet annually across approximately 16,505 cultivated acres, according to staff. And I think staff is currently, as we committed to do with our partners, USGS and City of Kingman, we're rerunning that ModFlow model every year, and I think they're doing that right now. So Mojave County will continue defending the INA, expanding groundwater monitoring, advancing recharge projects where appropriate, and working to protect the long-term security of Kingman's municipal water supply with the City of Kingman, and that's all I have. Thank you. We'll move to item number 3, County Manager's Report. Manager Strahl.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The only item I have was I would request item number 55 be removed and tabled. The Hospital Authority did not approve the lease. I was notified of this late Friday.
Thank you, sir. That will require a vote. I have made a note of that, so when we get to that item, we can do that.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Very good. Thank you. We have two presentations this morning. The first is I'm going to ask Matt Smith, the county attorney, to come up. Attorney Smith, you have a brief update that you'd like to share with the board at the request of one of our supervisors.
Thank you, Chairman. Chairman Lingenfelter, members of our esteemed Board of Supervisors, Madam Clerk, Madam Deputy County Attorney, and Mr. County Manager. Thank you today for allowing me to speak regarding the issue of the automatic license plate readers that are being utilized among other law enforcement agencies by our Mojave County Sheriff's Office. There are some members of the public that have approached at least one member of the Board of Supervisors concerned about the use of these automatic license plate readers and their constitutionality. In response to that, I had two of our top Magnet attorneys, and Magnet, of course, is our drug task force, and we have multiple attorneys that work out there, and the expertise they have is because of search and seizure law, which is unbelievably complicated and ever-changing as we speak. Those two attorneys came up with a memorandum that then went to our chief civil deputy, Jason Mitchell, who put together a memo that was distributed to the board. I just wanted to very briefly touch on it. And the bottom line is that these license plate readers, as being utilized at this time by the sheriff's office, are in fact constitutional. The biggest differentiation in case law with the Arizona and United States Supreme Court is right now is between the use of the license plate readers, which are being utilized throughout the country, and the basic holding of the courts is that you do not have a reasonable expectation of privacy when you are driving on public thoroughfares. Now, when you start getting into modern technology, such as the ability to track people's cell phones, quite often the courts will hold that utilizing that technology is in fact something that invades everybody's privacy, and law enforcement would have to get a search warrant before utilizing those types of technologies. And of course, there's a huge difference between driving on the public thoroughfares and a cell phone, which everybody takes their cell phones everywhere they go, including to the bathroom when you go to Starbucks. So it is a lot more of an infringement on people's privacies. Now, there are a lot of very fine distinctions in the law. And for example, if you are using the license plate readers and are tracking somebody throughout the country, at some point the courts might look at that and say, all right, hold on, law enforcement, you need to get a search warrant. Now, this is really only going to come up if somebody or a loved one or your relative ends up being charged with a crime and you have a public defender or a defense attorney and you end up, in fact, filing a motion to suppress. But in general terms, the way the sheriff's office is utilizing these, it is not unconstitutional, in our opinion, in decisions by the Arizona United States Supreme Court, and in fact, one of our local judges on the Superior Court held that they are constitutional. I'll just quickly remind the board that right now the license plate readers do not use facial recognition technology. They don't send alerts. They don't provide real-time monitoring of vehicles traveling throughout the community. They do not actively track individuals. They are not actively watched by deputies. The sheriff's office is not sharing that data. The data is only accessible for an authorized user if there is an active law enforcement investigation. Every login is tracked and access is subject to logging, auditing, and accountability. And finally, cameras capture license plates of vehicles that only travel through public areas. So if at some point law enforcement goes further than that, they start using the technology and the technology develops where facial recognition is used and tracking of movements is used, that's a whole different can of worms. But right now, the way that they are being utilized by the sheriff's office is constitutional. And I would be happy to answer any questions. I also know that from talking to Supervisor Borelli that he has an update on some new law that has just been passed at the state level.
Thank you. Supervisor Borelli, you have something?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, sir, for that update. A lot of people are not aware of this, but Senate Bill 1552, which is the ADOT Omnibus Bill, was signed into law on June 22nd. And on the very final, the last page of the bill, line 17 through 20, it clearly, and this is, by the way, an amendment that was passed and implemented by State Representative Leo Biasucci, soon to be our state senator. It adds in there a contract between a law enforcement agency and a business that uses a camera system that has the sole purpose of identifying motor vehicles must include a provision that prohibits the business from selling or disseminating to a third parties any data collected by the camera system. So that alleviates the big question and concern that these third-party vendors are selling the data to anybody outside, law enforcement can share amongst themselves, but this is in state law. Representative Biasucci made sure that that got added to the ADOT omnibus bill and signed into law on June 22nd this year.
Important information. Thank you, Supervisor. I'd open it up for questions. Supervisor Martin, thank you, sir.
Yes, thank you. Attorney Smith, one of the questions come up that naysayers are saying concerns law enforcement officers who have been charged with the misuse of those camera systems. To your knowledge, as the county attorney in Mojave County, has there ever been any law enforcement officer in Mojave County, and specifically the Mojave County Sheriff's Office, who has been charged criminally with the misuse of that camera system information?
No, and I don't know if misusing the camera would in fact be a criminal law violation. It would depend on exactly what was done. But maybe even more important, we do maintain a statewide Brady list on officers that have engaged in gross dereliction of duty, mainly things involving dishonesty and false statement. And there is a database, and right now at this time, we keep that database for Mojave County, and we have to turn it over to defense attorneys on individual cases anytime that officer is involved in a case. And then we litigate whether or not it's going to be used in a trial. And to this date, to the best of my knowledge, and I should know, we do not have any officers that are on the Brady list because they have misused any type of surveillance equipment or any type of license plate readers or any other similar type technology.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Supervisor Gould, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Attorney Smith, the problem with this is they're building a mosaic across the country, and they're building it with our tax dollars. They're creating a nationwide surveillance system so that they can surveil the people, and they're doing it with local tax dollars. This is problematic. If you go and move into a totalitarian form of government like the Chinese government, they're going to use social credit scores to track you with cameras and to shut off your bank account. This is problematic, and this is not something that we need in a free society. The only thing that prevents them from doing facial recognition is a software update. They send out software updates all the time. They've updated those cameras to pick up sound. So I'm sure they can update them to pick up facial recognition. I think this is a dangerous road to go down. I think it's a problem for civil liberties. You don't have the reasonable expectation of privacy on a public road, but you do have the reasonable expectation that no individual could spot you in various locations at any given time. And they are using it for, I was watching a YouTube of an Oklahoma trooper. The Oklahoma trooper pulled it up and saw that this driver had been in New Mexico and in California. So they're using it for a warrantless search. I'm not a citizen suspect. If you want to surveil me, get a warrant. I'm a political person, which means if I fall on the wrong side of government and become an enemy of the state, I'm going to be the target. That's why I had immunity when I was a state senator. I had immunity from, I couldn't serve on a jury, or you couldn't hold me for a crime except for treason during the legislative session. I think this is a dangerous road. Currently, it might not be unconstitutional, but the court's ruling all around this. They had a geofencing ruling back in June that said that geofencing was illegal. The way that they were doing it, they would go to Google and say how many of your phones were in this area. Give us that information, and they would keep whittling down that information. That's casting too broad of a net, and the court agreed that was too broad of a net. Eventually, lightning doesn't often strike twice, but maybe it'll strike twice in the eyes of the court, and they'll throw this kind of garbage out. We're a free country. We're not a surveillance state. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Supervisor. Any additional comments? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry, Supervisor Borelli.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. And by the way, that Senate bill, the way it was written, also applies to the red light and speed cameras, where they actually captured the image of the driver. So that cannot be sold to a third party, that data can't be shared third party or sold.
Thank you, Supervisor. Thank you, Attorney Smith. Appreciate
Thank
you.
you.
We have a second presentation this morning, presentation regarding the Mojave County website agenda subscription process and available public information notification options by our IT director, Mr. Nathan McDaniel.
Morning, Chairman and Board. I was invited here to speak on the topic of subscribing to county news articles and calendar events by our clerk of the board. So we have put out a press release on the county website that helps the citizens understand what that process is. Today on the Mojave County website, you as a citizen or anybody that's interested can subscribe to our news articles. So I will just drive the county website here live for you. When you visit the website, there's a button right here that says sign up today. You click this button, follow the prompts, insert your name and your email address, and then you get a choice to choose which categories you want to subscribe to. The press release, I'm going to use this as the presentation material as we took screenshots and have the instructions right here. So if you're interested in receiving the news emails and alerts, you click the sign up for today button on the front page of the county website. You are then asked to subscribe by putting your name, email address, choose the categories of the articles. If you're interested in meeting alerts, and the reason why there's two separate subscribe functions is one is for press releases and one is for calendar events, is essentially the two separations. And similarly here, if you want to subscribe to calendar events, you click on the meetings button. You'll see the calendar, you'll click the subscribe button, and then from here, same process, put in your name, your email address, and choose which calendar you want to follow. And that's pretty much it in a nutshell. Once you submit your information, you do have to click on a link that is emailed to you to verify that your email address is functional and working. Once that's done, you'll be notified of any of the events that you chose to subscribe to. And I am open for questions.
Thank you, Director. Any questions for Director? Supervisor Gould?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have a question. I just wanted to urge my fellow supervisors to recommend this website to their constituents. It becomes more important every day as we see a reduction in the circulation of newspapers and our requirement to public notice them. So the more that we build up this, the more evidence that we have that we can put notice out to the public without the use of newspapers. I think we're about at the point where we can't even qualify with the newspapers that are in the county of the state requirements. So, and I know they've been pushing to move away from that for the last, 25 years. You know, that they were doing that when I was senator. They were doing that when Supervisor Borelli was senator also. But it lets them know the agenda comes out. They know if they want to see the agenda, they can click on it, which is because the most common complaint is no one ever told me this was going on. You know, and we get that after we've done something, somehow somebody's angry because they didn't know. And this kind of gives us the ability to almost pin a note on their sweater so that they know what we're up to with a little bit of effort on themselves. But thank you, Chairman.
Thanks, Supervisor Burley.
Yes, thank you. And more to that point, that they're actually seeing the actual language on the agenda and not the opinion from the newspaper.
Chairman, and
Important point.
one more thing. We do have how to do this on a flyer that we will send to your offices in case your constituents come. You can give that to them. We're happy to help get them through that process, because you can't say you want all the Board of Supervisors agendas, or I want just the Planning and Zoning Commission. They can subscribe to their specific interest, and we want to drive them there. Thank you.
Absolutely. This is a great value-added thing. I look forward to all of our supervisors' offices getting this. That will be very helpful. Any other comments or questions? Thank you, Director McDaniel. Appreciate you.
Welcome.
We'll move to consent agenda this morning. Items 4 through 47. Supervisor Lettman, would you like to remove any items off of consent this morning?
I have no items to remove.
Thank you, sir. Supervisor Gould?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Number 11, 14, 15, 16, 18, 29, and 39.
Thank you, sir. Supervisor Borelli?
None.
And Supervisor Martin?
I have nothing.
And I have Nothing. So I'm looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented minus items 11, 14, 15, 16, 18, 29, and 39.
Second.
For that motion, second, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? High spirit have it, do have it, so ordered. We'll move to item number 11. Accept cash donations from business and industry partners, government agencies, private individuals, and nonprofit organizations in the total amount of $21,700 in cash sponsorships to support the Mojave County Community Services Department's Arizona at Work sponsorship work-based learning program. Supervisor Gould, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Most of these members are just, I'm going to shine some light on the donors, so I'm not going to argue half of these. So on number 11, we've got the donors on number 11, Nancy Campbell, $200, Jeff Anthony of Cornco Excavation, $2,500, Jeff Nelson of NPG Asphalt, $4,000, Jennifer Bernardi of Concord General Contracting, $5,000, Brooks Sapp of Campbell Ready Mix, $10,000. Motion to approve.
Second.
For that motion, second, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? I just appear to have it. Do you have it? So ordered. Thank you, Board. Move to item number 14, approve the reappointments to the Building Code Advisory Board. Rex Rouge, licensed architect, and Richard Hamilton, general contractor, construction and design, to be effective August 17th, 2026 through August 17th, 2030. Supervisor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This was pulled at the request of a constituent.
Thank you. We do have one citizen that signed up to speak, Mr. Chuck DeShazer. You want to come up to the podium, state your name and address, and
Yeah, Chuck DeShazer, 8778 Polaris Road, Topeka, Arizona. I usually just speak freely, but I have something to read this morning. Good morning, Supervisors. I'm here today to bring you to your attention on the subject of the reappointment of Mr. Rex Rouge. That I'm against this for two reasons. The first of which is that I find it to be a problem to have the same individual on the Building Code Advisory Board and the Planning and Zoning Board. This would become a problem that the Building Code Advisory Board hears an issue first, and their decision is then presented to the Planning and Zoning Commission. This would usually indicate someone on the first board has a bias in some fashion, depending on which side of the vote they were on having heard on the first case. This would then, according to how prejudiced human nature is in that person, cause that person to fight one way or another for the case or against it. This being said, why is Mr. Rouge on both boards? The second reason for my opposition to his appointment is that I have heard several decisions argued by him. One that comes to mind is at a Building Code Advisory Board meeting, he proposed the point that even though a structure such as a tool shed is not required to have a permit if it's under 300 square feet in size, you could not enter the tool shed. The basis for this logic was that by entering said shed to retrieve a tool such as a shovel, the shed is now considered occupied by a human. For a structure to have human occupation, a permit is required. Can any of the supervisors explain the flaw with this argument? It would be like catch-22, a government-created problem just for regulation's sake. I would estimate that in Mojave County, over 99% of non-vacant lots have a tough shed or something home-built to keep a shovel or other tool in, and if you could find a certificate of occupancy on one of them, it would amaze me. But this is exactly what Mr. Rouge said is required to retrieve a shovel. If you need the evidence of this thinking, I can show you the video. I would implore you to do your research about these issues instead of just rubber stamping someone who makes decisions on two separate boards. It has the look of nepotism, impropriety, and bias. I know he told me I have to have a certificate, and maybe he'd been more influential in making the right call, we would not be in litigation as we are right now. That being said, my legal team explained to me to just read that so that you guys have a chance. On the same sort of issue that we're talking about here.
Saved by the bell.
What's that?
thank you for your testimony this morning. Appreciate it. Supervisor Gould.
Motion to approve.
For that motion, do I have a second? Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes appear to have it, do have it, so ordered. Thank you, Board. Item number 15, sitting as the Board of Directors of the Mojave County Library District, accept and authorize expenditure of a monetary donation in the amount of $2,500 from the the Kingman Friends of the Library to be used for tinting of large windows in the Kingman Library, $2,000, and for the reimbursement of the cost for food and beverages at a public open house event at the Kingman Library, which took place on August 12th, 2026, $500. Any remaining balance to be used for future programming as detailed in the backup materials. This item was pulled by Supervisor Gould. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to thank the Friends of the Library for their $2,500 donation, and with that, motion to approve.
Second.
For that motion and second, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes appear to have it, do have it, so ordered. Thank you, Board. Move to item number 16, sitting as the Board of Directors of the Mojave County Library District, accept and authorize expenditure of a monetary donation, the amount of $700 from the Lake Havasu City Friends of the Library to be used for the purchase of food and refreshments for the America 250 Family Fun Night, which will take place at the Lake Havasu City Library on September 10th, 2026. Any remaining balance to be used for future programming as detailed in the backup materials. Supervisor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to thank the Lake Havasu Friends of the Library for their $700 donation, and motion to approve.
Second.
For that motion and second, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes appear to have it, do have it, so ordered. Thank you, Board. Item number 18, accept the fiscal year 2026 fourth quarter in-kind donations totaling $49,033.78 contributed by the Senior Center nonprofit site councils to support the Mojave County Department of Public Health Senior Nutrition Program. These contributions are generated through fundraising efforts by the site councils to reduce reliance on the general fund and to enhance the positive impact of the Senior Nutrition Program. Supervisor Gould, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to thank this following list of donations to the Senior Nutrition Program, which is the Senior Center in Lake Havasu. Today's News Herald, $1,300. River City Newspaper, $1,007. Stone Teas, $1,500. Lake Havasu Cleaning, $3,200. Squeegee Clean, $250. Lake Havasu Olive and Garden, $20.90. Arizona Department of Revenue, $50. Optimum, $205. Smart and Final, $108. Office Crave, $44. KellyWallen.com, $600. Shea's Billiard Supply, $3,625. Culligan Water, $92. Iron Wolf Lodge, $100. Walmart, $45. Sam's Club, $309. Safeway, $72. Websterant, who is flooding my YouTube with ads currently, $145. Dollar Tree, $32. CVS, $39. MOW Senior Center, $50. Smith's, $980. Amazon, $260. Albertsons, $927. Shamrock Foods, $20,760.48. Thank you, all these people, local businesses, for their donations to the Senior Center. Motion to approve.
Second.
Absolutely. You've heard that motion second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes appear to have it, do have it, so ordered. Thank you, Board. Move to item number 29, approve the budget transfer in the amount of $54,345 sourced to 856 Golden Valley Improvement District contingency to cover the costs associated with replacing the standpipe controllers, keypads, and printers to mitigate cybersecurity vulnerabilities and associated liabilities of the district, its customers, and the security of its water system. Supervisor Gould, you pulled this item.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was just going to ask Director Latosky a couple of questions about this. Director, is this the system that we put in a couple of years ago to get rid of the, would we have a punch card and coin operated system at the water standpipe before?
Chairman Lingenfelter, Supervisor Gould, members of the board, yes, there was an upgrade to enable credit card type of transactions at the standpipe system. So these PLCs, the programmable logic controllers, are somewhat dated, but in light of the Homeland Security concerns and our somewhat notifications with regard to the cybersecurity vulnerability, we see it very prudent to consider swapping these out.
might we be better served to go back to the coin-operated system?
Well, that's a good question, but actually, where this really comes into play is serving our standpipe customers that have an account with us. So the coin-operated system actually was upgraded to a credit card type system where just one-time users would be able to use the standpipes. But we have a lot of, actually probably in the hundreds, folks that actually have an account with us that regularly use the standpipes. And this system is set up so that we can actually facilitate their accounting for usage, as well as monitor the dispensers. So the internet connection is still very, very critical for our efficiency of operations.
So since we don't send out, or they don't have a water connection, they don't get a bill, correct?
To the best of my understanding, those that actually have a standpipe specific account will be billed directly for their use.
Have we ever asked them whether they would rather return to the low-tech system instead of continually spending money on high-tech things?
Well, Chairman Lingenfelter, Supervisor Gould, we haven't reached out to the customers in that regard, but I would suspect that would be kind of not so welcomed in a sense that it's very cumbersome to just pay, as you go per se, versus us as a water company can actually monitor their use and just bill them directly. That would probably be the better, more efficient way to go. They would actually get a quasi water bill, if you will, even though they actually don't have an account, a connection with GVID.
Sure. Yeah. And at this point in time, we've probably progressed too far to go back the other way. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Otherwise, I'd entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
With that motion second, any additional discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes appear to have it. Do have it. So ordered. Thank you, Board. Move to item number 39. Approve the adoption of BOS Resolution 2026-139, establishing an emergency voting center pursuant to ARS 16411B5, and approving the emergency voting procedures required pursuant to ARS 16-542H. Supervisor Gould, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just thought we should have a discussion on, do we even need an emergency voting center since no one bothered to use it in the primary? And I'm assuming that we have to man this over the weekend, which costs us money. I don't know.
Morning, Recorder Henry.
Good morning, Chairman and Supervisor Gould. Our office is already open Monday through Friday, and this weekend we're also open 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. for curing. We have to be open by a Senate bill that passed in 2024. So we already have to pay security to be inside the building. In the past, prior to having to be open over the weekend, this was only offered on the Monday prior to Election Day. Now that we're open, we offer it all weekend, but we also still don't publicize emergency voting.
So we don't publicize it.
No, so we always publicize early voting. That's for 27 days, has the libraries, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., and then Election Day. If someone calls while we're open on that weekend or the Friday of the last day of early voting, and they said that they couldn't vote early and they can't go on Election Day, we could then tell them the option of emergency voting. But you do have to sign the affidavit deeming you're declaring an emergency and that you can't go to the polls on Tuesday.
And you're already there curing ballots anyway, so it's kind of negates my additional cost argument to a certain extent. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Any other discussion? I entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
For that motion second, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes appear to have it. Do have it. So ordered. That does it for the consent agenda. We'll move to public hearing. We have one public hearing this morning. I'm going to open the public hearing on item number 48. Approve and authorize the chairman to sign on behalf of the board a new franchise agreement for the location, construction, maintenance, and operation of a fiber optic millimeter wave network within certain unincorporated areas of Mojave County described in Exhibit A, owned and operated by Wire Free Communications Incorporated. We have nobody. We have one person. The applicant has signed up. If anybody has any questions, we have nobody else that has signed up to speak during call to the public hearing. Excuse me. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to speak on item number 48 during the public hearing? Going once, going twice. I'm going to close the public hearing on item number 48. I'd open it up to the board. We do have the applicant here if you have any questions. Otherwise, I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Supervisor Gould.
I'd like to hear what the applicant is going to do.
Sure.
A brief overview.
Alan Cameron, you'd come to the podium, please. Thank you. State your name and address for the board. We'd appreciate it.
Alan Cameron, 2011 McCullough Boulevard, Suite 8, Lake Havasu City, Arizona, 86403.
Supervisor Gould.
Thank you, Chairman. Sir, if you could give us a brief overview of what your plans are.
The tactical plan is out in the Havasu Heights area where they're building some new subdivisions called DL Ranch, which we've made investments as far as bringing fiber optics out into that particular area with Unisource permits by doing pole attachment. We now need to transition some of that aerial plant to underground, which requires a county permit. And so that was probably the driver of originally filling out the application. There are other projects that are underway in development, especially in the Yucca area. There was a project way in the back. I think it's a spa that they're putting in back there. Also was very interested in supporting that project. And then, of course, growing our existing network in some of the other areas like Crystal Beach, Donkey Acres, where we use wireless, but we'd like to start transitioning to a more economical, fiber optic type network in those areas.
Sure. No, it sounds interesting. Any plans to do the existing area in Havasu Heights? Don't mean to put you on the spot.
No, it wasn't. I am not opposed to anything. As a matter of fact, I'm really looking forward to growing because I've been in the Havasu Heights area with wireless probably for 16 years. So, I have made quite an investment, got permits from BLM and everybody to bring in fiber in that particular area. And I would love to continue to expand that and address that. Absolutely.
Sounds
Maybe
good.
we can talk more about that so I can get that on my radar.
Sure. I'd love to. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. Motion to approve.
For that motion.
Second.
For that motion, second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes appear to have it. Do have it. So ordered. Thank you, Mr. Cameron. Move to our regular agenda this morning. Item number 49, discussion and possible action. Sitting as the Board of Directors of the Mojave County Library District, receive update from Mojave County Library District staff regarding direction given on items 53 and 56 from the March 16th, 2026 meeting of the Mojave County Board of Supervisors. Staff is returning to the board with information and proposals for changes in existing policy. Director Brilio, excuse me. Morning, Jake.
Hey, good morning. It's Barrelero. By the way.
Barrelero,
Yeah,
okay.
it's kind of a tough one.
You can mispronounce my name too. I give you permission.
Okay, thank you. I'll make every attempt. Chairman Lingenfelter, members of the board, we're coming back trying to hit some of those points that you guys sent us away to look into. I can just, I put a memo up there, but I can just briefly go over each one of those points. So point number 1 is require parental consent for all minors and written authorization. We already do this. When you go to sign up a minor, the parent has to agree to that. And they also have to provide a valid picture ID. So point number 2, require annual parental reauthorization. So in order to renew your card, they expire every year. All the bills have to be paid. The account has to be in good standing. And we would renew that. I did write into the circulation policy a change that would specifically say that we have to have parental authorization to do so. Number 3, robust parental control settings that allow parents to determine what categories of materials. This is one of the major changes that we're bringing to you. It's an adjustment in the circulation policy, and what that does is it will establish categories of card. Child's card, young adult card, and a full access card. And what that will do is it will automatically tie, when we issue a card, it will automatically tie that card to certain sections of the collection. Our collection is currently divided kind of along the lines of age group anyway. And so, for example, a child would not be able to check out young adult materials. A young adult would not be able to check out adult materials. Adults can check out anything. We did also write in an opt-out feature that a parent can say, look, I want my child to be able to check out anything, and that would be something that the parent would have to come forth and say, I want that changed, and we would note it on the account. Provide parental access to the minor children's library accounts. They already have some options for this. You can link a child's account with a parent's account online and see everything that's happening and manage the account from that point. They can also just log into the child's account. We did come up with a new policy. It's actually it really is an addition to our current library parental responsibility policy. So we have now a rights and responsibilities policy that we would like to kind of replace that responsibilities policy, and that would give the parents a certain set of rights that would address a lot of these things here. And that's included in the backup as well. Provide optional notification tools, allowing parents to receive alerts. This is something we already have. Again, parents can log in. They also have the option of being able to get notifications. It's just something that they have to opt into. It's been there for a long time. Develop clear categorization and labeling of materials containing mature themes or content comparable to PG-13 or higher. We already divide our collection into categories based loosely on age, really. We have children's, juvenile selection. We have a young adult selection, and we have an adult selection. PG-13 or higher, that's a Motion Picture Association rating. And that's Motion Picture Association is a nonprofit organization. Creators voluntarily submit their work to the MPA. And it's not mandatory in any way, shape, or form. They also pay for that privilege. They have between $2,600, I think, and up, depending on the budget of the film. So not all materials are rated that are motion pictures, but they're really the ones for motion picture stuff that do what you would consider ratings, and that's kind of the guidelines we were given. But there's not like a standard one for written work. Most of the things we have in the library district are written work. There's not one we have some people that will tell you this is an age interest level, but it doesn't say really that they're assigning any kind of value or set of values to their rating system. At least there's not one that's kind of universally used out there. There might be some organizations that do that. But again, if we want to adopt those values, and we'd also have to see how comprehensive their body of work has been. I can just let you know that if we were to try to develop our own rating system, my apologies. I did some mathematics. I gave you guys a little bit of that before. We have about 180,000 separate items in our collection. If we were to minus films out because we were going to use the Motion Picture Association rating for that or their equivalent, TV equivalent, it comes down to like 164,000 items that we would have to look at. So, I'm not going to say that it's hit and miss, but let's say that you took an item, you pulled it off the shelf, and you're looking at it, and then you flip through it to see if there's any kind of catchwords. You look at some reviews to say, okay, this is on this topic. I think 15 minutes is kind of quick to do that, and then you have to affix all the whatever labels you want, change everything in the catalog. I think 15 minutes is kind of quick, but if we did go for 15 minutes an item, and we had employees look at that, that would take 41,000 hours at 19.71 man years. You can do the mathematics about what we would pay folks. I would need to be able to do that. I would need probably 5 new people in 4 years to do it. And then, of course, I'd have to train these people. And if you wanted it to be double checked by somebody else, then it would be twice as long. So I just wanted to bring those numbers up. It's not that we are saying anything. It really is a big process if we're going to come up with a rating system like the MPA. Like I said, the MPA gets paid pretty well to do that for the motion picture industry. Number 7 is establish procedures requiring affirmative parental authorization before before they may check out in that category. If we tied their accounts to the certain sections of the collection, then we would be able to say that children wouldn't be able to check out things that are higher unless the parent wanted, and that parental authorization would be to give them a more wider access, a card that has wider access, which could be done. Direct all library staff to research alternatives to the American Library Association. I just wanted everybody to know, since I've worked here, we've not had an institutional membership to the American Library Association. The connection with the American Library Association to our organization now, some staff members are obviously members, but the connection really is the 3 documents that I've put in the backup. The Library Bill of Rights, the Statement on Labeling, and the Freedom to View. Those were actually authored way in the past by the American Library Association. They were adopted by a previous board. The Library Bill of Rights was the first policy to be adopted by the Board of Supervisors. It's also, I should mention, in 2 different places in the body of policy, and the American Library Association is mentioned sprinkled throughout the rest of the policy. But those are the 3 real items that are American Library Association items that are points of our policy. I've written here the board can do with those policies whatever they'd like. I'm not going to suggest anything. I'm obviously a librarian. I obviously think that the American Library Association has done many, many fine things. However, they are not the governing body of this library district. You guys are. So I also, because the way that the direction was given was to find alternatives to the American Library Association, I just went and looked up a lot of different library associations in this country. If you guys want us to explore one of these library associations to see if they have something there, I will let you know that it does take a little bit of research because many library associations are either direct subsidiaries of the American Library Association, they're either chapters, or they are affiliate members. So you really have to find those that aren't, if that's what you wanted to get away from. Or we could remain not belonging to any library association, and we would do our own thing. So entirely up to the board. We, in conversations with my staff and with the county manager as well, one of the suggestions, and there have been some concerns about donated materials. So just to limit those donated materials to items that we already have in the collection. So if we have a damaged copy of something, then what we could do is if there was a donation that had something, we could do a direct swap out. Or if it was something that it was like, we had volumes 2, 3, and 5. We could add volume 4 even if we hadn't had it before. It's in the same series, to be able to complete a series. So that was suggested. We decided to bring it forth to you because of the concern about donated items. I'm here to answer any questions. I know that was kind of quick. I'm trying not to get in the weeds. It's very easy to get in the weeds on something so complex. I should mention that if it were adopted as it stands, it's still going to take us probably a couple of 100 hours of staff time to be able to put everybody in the right category and to do any kind of basic software work. If we want to get any more detail than that, of course, then the time and possibly the price, depending on if we have to go out and get some software to get pretty granular on this stuff.
Thank you, Director. We have 3 people that are signed up to speak. We'll let them speak, and then we'll get into discussion. Well, first, Aaron Roper. You don't want to speak anymore? Okay. Armin Stanish. And then Rob Christensen, you're on deck. Thank you. State your name and address for the record. Thank you, Armin.
Armin Stanger, Fort Mojave, aka the German. I'm on the Library Advisory Board, and I thought that was a part what the advisory board was supposed to discuss, and I kind of feel pushed aside, not even included in anything. Then the last meeting we had, we started talking about it, and I made a suggestion to wait after the 250 event. And now all of a sudden, the last meeting got canceled, and this comes up. You know, I don't know what the advisory board is good for then, if you don't get included. You know, to say ooh-ah to a new carpet or window tinting or whatever, anybody can do that. If you're not going to be included, why not abolish it? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Rob Christensen. And Jacob, you can come back up. I think we're going to have some questions. Thank you.
Dr. Rob Christensen. I reside at 3951 Sorensen Drive here in Kingman. I'm not necessarily opposed or for this policy. I just have some questions that I want the Board of Supervisors to consider. And I didn't have the luxury of looking at the memo that the library director referenced when he was up here speaking. So I'd like to know how long this process would take to rate all these books, specifically how expensive it would be to go to a new rating system and to use county employees to complete this activity. And then my last question to you all is to pose the question, at what point do parents and guardians have to take responsibility for what their children or minors read? So I just want the Board of Supervisors to maybe ask the library director to address those specific questions, and if I can ask to submit this letter for the record, please. And then I will conclude my testimony. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. If you want to hand that to the clerk, we appreciate it. Jake, do you want to come back down? You know, while you're coming down, I just think that American Library Association, in my view, it has policies that I believe are contrary to parental control and rights. And I think that the direction that we're going here changes or restructures that in strong favor of parental control and parental rights, because ultimately I think, in this area, parents are the ultimate authority with their minor children under 18. So I'd open it up for questions. Supervisor Borelli, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Excuse me. The American Library Association, all these other library associations, you say they have all these standards and everything. Do they require, how do they get funded? Privately funded? Do they get take donations? I'm talking about cash donations.
Oh, okay. The American Library Association, I'm sure they take donations. I would have to look at their financials to tell you exactly. They have membership fees, so that's part of it. I'm not sure if they get any grants from, I would have to look at their financials. I couldn't speak to what the American Library Association, how they get funded exactly line for line.
Question, just hypothetical question, sir. Chairman. If you had a large donation by somebody who wants to contribute, and they kind of like demand there's some strings attached, isn't there a possibility that they could impose their own strings?
Well, we tell people, you're talking about a donation of materials?
No, I'm talking about the cash donations to these other associations.
I guess they could, but we would bring any of those donations if they were, if they had, if they were going to make it to our library district, then we would bring that donations to you. If you're talking about how do donors sometimes impose strings on the money that they give, yeah, it happens sometimes even with, even with very small donations, sometimes people would, for example, when people donate materials, they'll say, my great aunt B decided to, she decided to die, and she decided that I really want to have all my books in the library, and we'll tell her that we can't promise you that's going to happen because they may not fit in our collection. Maybe I'm not understanding the.
Yeah, you're misunderstanding.
Yeah.
I'm talking about these library associations, the big ones that have all these standards, so on and so forth, and you guys rely on this type of information to be trickled down on standards and everything else. I'm talking about a large contributor donating to them. They could set in their own agenda, and it could trickle down. Don't you think there's a possibility they could, there's some strings attached with their large donations?
Well, I mean, any organization is if they're going to accept a donation, just like the Board of Supervisors, can determine whether or not that they'd like to adhere to any strings set to that. But we don't look at the American Library Association other than these documents that you have before you. It's not like the American Library Association calls us up and say, you have to put this in, or you have to put X amount of, that doesn't happen.
To that point, sir, you brought it up about these other associations setting standards, so you brought that into the conversation.
Well, I brought it in because of the nature of the direction, sir. The direction was to find alternatives to the American Library Association. The American Library Association is an association, so I gave alternative associations back to you because of the nature of the direction, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions? Other comments?
Mr. Chairman, Jake, I had a question, first of all. On item number 4, provide parental access to minor children's library accounts. What are we defining as a minor?
It would be birth to 12, and, basically anybody under 18. I'm sorry, the categories are broken up further down.
It wasn't
but
specified
it's
there.
0 to 18. At 18 years old, they're an adult. And they can they can have a full access card unless their parent determined that they had a full access card before, according to what we've brought to you all.
Got it. Now, I think both of us know I'm a library guy. I love our library. I love our staff, the buildings, terrific job. So when I'm going into the back of the material you sent to us and I'm looking at the Library Bill of Rights adopted by this Board of Supervisors 35 years ago. And as I'm going through these materials, it's obvious that what was written in 1948, and amended in 61, 67, and 80 by the ALA Council, I think times have changed, and I just find some of the assumptions in these documents really not scary but alarming. And again, we as a Board of Supervisors apparently have adopted this, and I'm assuming, therefore, it's still part of our policy to this day, 35 years later?
Yes, sir. That's why I'm bringing it back.
Okay, well, let's talk about what some of those were. Books and other library resources should be provided for the interest, information, and enlightenment of all people the community the library serves. I like that. Materials should not be excluded because of origin, background, or views of those contributing to the creation. So that, again, reflects to me just a complete lack of standards. I think it was a different world back in 1948. That's when Harry Truman was president. And I think today in our society, we're much more divisive. And this, I wouldn't keep this as part of our policy. The freedom of view, on item 2, it talks about protecting the confidentiality of all minors and institutions who are basically checking things out. I assume that doesn't include minors.
I guess it probably does, which is why we brought back different changes in our policy for you guys to look at, and in the introduction of another policy. We did work with the attorney's office to make sure we weren't doing anything funky, for lack of a better word, or illegal. Attorney Chavez drafted some amendments to the right to privacy policy that you have in your backup as well.
Okay, understood. My favorite, though, is on the statement of labeling, an interpretation of the Library Bill of Rights adopted apparently by this Board of Supervisors in September of 1991. Item 2. Some find it easy and even proper, according to their ethics, to establish criteria for judging publications as objectionable. Now, a few months ago, I believe Supervisor Gould and I clearly had a problem with some material we were labeling as objectionable. It was actually being donated in the library. However, injustice and ignorance, injustice and ignorance, rather than that justice and enlightenment, result from such practices. I don't think any of us consider ourselves to be unjust or ignorant. So I don't know which supervisor up here will be the first to put an item on the agenda to disassociate ourselves from that document. I'll clearly take the lead in that one. But again, those are my concerns. That's part of our policy. Wonderful. Back in 1948, I get it. It's 2026. And I'm a big believer that community standards have a role to play in the way we operate our county library system. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I would say, kind of an aside, but more to your point, Supervisor Borelli, the point I think that you were trying to get to when you look at their donations and how they operate. If you look at the American Library Association's Form 990s, you'll find that some of their biggest donors are aligned with progressive democratic priorities. And I would list the Mellon Foundation. Their grant making is decidedly progressive. Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is a big donor. So I think that's kind of the point you were trying to get to. And again, in some of my own research, why I believe that the American Library Association's policies are sort of contrary, in my view, to parental control and parental rights. And it's been that way for a long time. So I think that these changes that we're making in Mojave County for our libraries, like I said, it restructures the whole relationship and puts parents in control with their kids and where it needs to be. So, Supervisor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jake, so it looks like you've got three different classifications of books. We've got children, teens, and full access.
Broadly, classifications of cards, of access levels.
Okay.
Yes.
How do we determine those levels?
Well, they already are determined. We have a juvenile collection, we have a YA collection, and we have an adult collection. They're physically separated in our libraries. They also have spine labels, which are different, so that we can put items into areas. We don't have children's books interfiled with adult books. You walk into any library, we have a youth services section, and we have a YA. When I say any library, I must say that our larger libraries have YA sections where teens can go and hang out, but our collection itself, in all of our libraries, are defined by section.
So who made
YA being young adult? Pardon?
Who made the determination which of those sections a particular book went into?
Library staff members who are doing collection development. We take a look at publisher information. Publishers have kind of guidelines, I would say. It's like when you buy any kind of product, they have manufacturer specifications. They will say, this is who we are marketing this item to. We'll take a look at reviews, and they'll also have something along the lines of, this is a good book for this age of kid, this is a good book for teens, this is and then with adult stuff, it's very often apparent, but it's also they will have recommendations on, this is an adult fiction or nonfiction book. So we'll look at that. We also look at what other libraries have done across the country. A lot of our records on our database are uploaded from other organizations. And from WorldCat, that's like the World Catalog, and from other organizations, we upload these records, and there are other librarians who have taken a look at them. And so we can take a look, and when I look at any of the items that we have in our collection, and I start looking all over the country at a various diverse array of library districts, you'll find that we're pretty much in line with what they do. I mean, the vast majority. And I did bring this up the last time. We haven't had an enormous number of complaints. We had 0 since the last time I've talked to you guys. We've had 2 out of 2.2 million circulation events. So whenever somebody brings something to our attention that they don't like, I take it seriously. And if you guys would like, going forward, we have a reconsideration of materials policy. And if you'd like, whenever those things come up, I can forward play-by-play minutes to the board of how we're handling that. I have been working with the county manager, actually the past county manager, when that came up. It was play-by-play. And each time that we've had that happen, we've had a different ad hoc committee each time, made up of different members. And so I'm trying to keep it as level as possible, so that when people do have a problem, that they have every chance of objectivity when we're looking at their claim. So I mean, I take this stuff seriously. I mean, I really do. If somebody has a problem with an item, I'd want them to bring it to my attention. But I have not had a single request for reconsideration policy since the last time, since it's been in the news. And so either we're doing a good job, which is possible. Either people don't know, how to get in contact and don't know how to say, let me speak to your manager, which I find to be not usually the case. Or, I don't know what the other options would be. Either we're doing a really bad job and it's been hidden, or we're doing a really good job and we're doing what you pay us to do.
So we're already essentially rating books.
We are classifying books. We're not rating based on a values standard. We're classifying based on reading level and interest area.
So basically, we're taking the manufacturer's recommendations on those three categories.
Largely, we also look at professional reviews, of course.
Okay.
And so we're looking at that. But occasionally there'll be a book that we have read ourselves, but it's not going to be every book. It's 180,000 items. So you can see the complexity and scale of an undertaking in which to look at every single item. It will take every minute of what I've told you it will take if that's the direction we'd like to go in. It has been working, what we have been doing, based on the number of complaints that you guys get. If we were going well off of the standard, then I would imagine that you would be speaking to constituents and our patrons all the time. And I imagine I would as well, and it just hasn't happened.
I can make the argument that the library isn't used as much as it was 30 years ago also, but so we're already classifying the three different levels of the library. So when a new book comes in, somebody's making the determination which of those three sections it's going to go in?
That's correct.
Okay. So if we applied some standards to those as those books came in, then we could do that?
If you would like to develop a rating system, you would have to give us the value standards that you would like.
Those would come from the board.
Those would come from the board if you would like to develop that.
So currently, what prevents, so you have to be 11 to wander around the library without parental supervision?
It's under 10, so 10 years old.
Okay, so 10 years or older. So what prevents the 10-year-old from wandering into the adult section and looking at the adult books?
Our policy, allowing people to have access to those things. Also, the level of staffing I have, if that were the case. Again, I would need more people. I don't have enough. We have enough people to operate as we're operating now. If you throw us more stuff, we're going to need more people. And that, obviously, there's a cost associated. To physically keep people from certain parts of the library, we would need a number of extra people roaming around just looking at that.
So currently, there's nothing that prevents a 10-year-old from going into the adult portion of the library?
No.
Okay. On your parental authorization, so effectively, if, say I had an 11-year-old, I could sign up to let him go in the adult section?
Absolutely.
If I give him full access?
Not only the adult section, but to check out items like that, yeah. If you're a parent and you want your child to have access to more items, I built that in specifically because there are concerns from the public. And so if you are a parent, you should have the right to say, this is what I want my kid to say. And I think that that's a really good feature so that the public can tell us, hey, this is what I want. This is a decision that I'm making for my family. And I don't believe that I need to buy into your guidelines.
So currently, if I go to the movies, they have an NC-17 rating.
I'm not sure how much stuff we have that are NC-17. I would have to look into that. But I know, if we had one, then. But I don't think
if everybody would go through the chair, so make sure that it's one person speaking at a time. Thank you.
Sorry, Chairman Lingenfelter, in response to the supervisor's notion. If we had it on the shelf, currently anybody can check out anything per our policy.
Thank you,
Mr. Chairman. If you go to the movie theater, there's a classification, I believe, called NC-17. NC-17 is no child under 17 can watch that movie. So if I send a note with my 11-year-old, you think they'll let him in that movie?
Sir, I'm not entirely sure. I do know that all of the MPA Association ratings are voluntary by the creator. So the creator goes to this organization to have them rated so that they can get into theaters. I'm not sure how each and every individual theater is enforcing that, and whether or not there are penalties. Might have to ask the attorney whether or not there are penalties for a theater if they do enforce it in a different way than what you're envisioning. So if, for example, they didn't have or if they had an unrated item that they were showing at the theater, I'm not in the motion picture industry, so I can't tell you, or in the cinema industry. I'm not sure if there's anything that they would have legally that would keep them from allowing a youth in there. I think it's their own internal policies. I don't think it's a regulation. So to answer your question, I'm not sure. I think they leave it up to private business. The government has left it up to private business to handle that. I'm not sure that there's a law. Again, I am not an attorney. Attorney Chavez would be the person to ask about whether or not that would be a possibility legally.
Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Currently, Arizona has a curfew. I believe there's a curfew on for less than, I think it's 15 and younger, are not supposed to be out after 10:30 at night unless they're on their way to work or an organized event. So do you think I could just write a note to my kid and let my kid stay out till 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning because I decided that he should be able to stay out that late?
Not in our public library, sir. We close at 6 o'clock. I don't know. That's an area of the law that I'm unfamiliar with. You'd best probably be served by consulting Attorney Chavez.
Mr. Chairman, Arizona law delineates what adults can do and what children can do. This is no different in this case. Just because if we have standards, we are providing this literature to people. We have no obligation to provide the literature, but we can set some standards on who views it. And I really don't think that we want to participate in minors seeing adult content, and which has been my issue all along. You have a rating system. You probably need to phase something in where we're going to determine what level of these 3 levels do new literature come in. You got a library board that apparently had nothing to do with the evolution of this policy, and I kind of thought that's why we had a library board to bounce things off of.
Might I respond to that, Chair?
Director.
Yes, because we were given a period of time directly by the board to get back. So that didn't coincide with anything to do with the Citizens Advisory Committee. As we were directly by you, we took that path. You gave us a direction. We came back directly to you. We didn't involve the Citizens Advisory Committee in there because you gave us that direction. And you gave us a timeline. That timeline was extended, but it still did not coincide with the CAC. Okay, that's why we did that.
Supervisor Gould.
Mr. Chairman, if a parent wants their child to view adult content material, that parent should go and check that out from the library and provide that for their child. I don't think that the taxpayer should be providing that. And this is the nexus of the whole situation, is that we saw stuff that was inappropriate for children being put in their library, and it was improperly rated. And that's why this actually arose. But we have no obligation to the parent to provide adult content to their child. And I don't think that merely writing a note is sufficient to let them view adult content material. So and that's the basis of this whole argument, is we have to come up with some way to rate these things so that we can appropriately provide who views it or don't provide it at all. That basically that's your 2 choices. But it seems like we would use the library. My 2 library appointees are in the audience today. And I think that would be where we start, is to run this stuff through the library board. And if we get people on the library board that are not reflecting community values on these things, then maybe they should be changed out for people that actually uphold community values. But we're under no obligation to provide adult literature to children. But that's the basis of the whole thing, is how we need to come up with a way to rate this stuff. And we need to come up with a way that it's segregated inside the library from minor children from viewing the adult content, whether they put a security door on it, that they have to have an adult card to get through it. We need to do something, because the fact that no one's complaining, most people think that complaining to the government is futile, and that's why they don't bother to complain. the people that I talked to didn't know that there was a complaint process at the library. They didn't know that they could complain. But I don't think that we can continue to do what we're doing now that we know that what we're doing is inappropriate. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Director, the changes that are being proposed today, do they not squarely place all responsibility onto the parents?
The policy as it stands squarely places all responsibility on the parents. But yes, yeah, we didn't say that any of the responsibility is now taken by us. We're just going to be classifying people into different access categories and tying those access categories to existing classifications.
When a parent signs up their child on the form that you and your staff have prepared, does it notify that parent and give full disclosure that we don't have people there to babysit their kid and make sure that they're not walking down the wrong aisle and these types of things? I mean, and that it's on the parents to be responsible for their own kids?
Yeah, Supervisor Lingenfelter, Board Attorney Chavez did adjust that, the actual application for us, and so she did that along the whatever legal guidelines that she has, because they're signing a legal document. She was the one who, in the backup, you saw a library application form. So perhaps she's best to discuss whether or not that's something that could go. We could certainly provide copies of policy when people sign up a juvenile. We could certainly do that, saying and kind of fact-finding little documents or FAQ document. We would come up with something like that and actually saying, look, you've signed up for a library card. You're in one of these 3 categories. These are your rights. These are, okay, you can do this to keep track of everything, but ultimately you're responsible.
Yeah, I think from the District 1 office, I'm looking to just push all of the responsibility on the parents. As a parent myself, I don't want government telling me what I can do and what I can't do. They do. I mean, but when it gets into this kind of slippery slope stuff, I just want to be the one that says, ideologically and spiritually and religiously and all these types of things, this is what our family believes, and I want to be in charge of that. And I want everybody else's family to be in charge of that for their kids. I think that's the fairest way to do it. And so we need to have policies, just in my view, that does exactly that. Supervisor Burley.
Yes, thank you. Excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to add and concur with my colleagues up here. We were also told that the COVID vaccine was safe. Artificial sweetener is safe. There were no WMDs. And of course, Anna Nicole married for love. So, you know what? We need to have some community standards here and put the responsibility on the parents. But just to sit there and kind of like, well, we have this standard from this association and that association, these associations can get hijacked. I mean, the Southern Law Poverty Center is a classic example of that one. That got hijacked. So, of course, we know with the ALA, those donations that you had just mentioned, these agendas can be hijacked and pushed down to where there's really no standards. So the idea here is that the whole intent is protecting the child and reinserting parental authority. That's the whole, I believe, the intent of this whole exercise.
And that's what we've attempted to do with the revisions we brought back to you.
I do agree with that, Supervisor Burley. I think when you look at some of the American Library Association policy, it's contrary to disclosing everything to the parents, and that in itself is contrary to parental control. It's contrary to parental rights. So I think that we're on the right track with all this stuff. It eliminates any sort of obfuscation or not telling the parents exactly what the kids are doing, under the guise of privacy or whatever. Until my kid is 18, I'm responsible for them. So,
Mr. Chairman?
Yes. Yes, Manager Strahl, thank you.
From a staff standpoint, we've had extensive discussions regarding these policies and trying to interpret what you had directed us to do. One of the things that we looked at is, yes, these policies from the American Library Association had been approved a number of years ago. Staff took no position on those. You know, it is up to you. If you want to remove those, that is perfectly fine. What we tried to do from a staff standpoint is interpret what you wanted us to do in terms of giving that responsibility to the parents within the categories that we already have, and utilizing that and letting the parents make those determinations for the minor. Now, some of those, so in reality, we were kind of overlaying these definitions for the parent to interpret that were basically contrary to what those American Library Association components were. So that this was the idea to supersede those. So there's nothing to say that those don't really apply any longer per se, because we're using this different standard that the staff has already come up with and suggested to try to address these concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, Manager Strahl. Supervisor Lettman.
So I had a follow-up question. Did the advisory board review all of this?
Director.
Chairman Lingenfelter, Supervisor Lettman. They did not. We kind of gave them a brief overview in one of my reports to them about this tiered system, but we hadn't had it at the time of the last meeting. We had to cancel the last meeting, so it would be the meeting before. We had to cancel the last meeting because we didn't have a quorum. And so the meeting before was held in late April. And so I gave them a kind of a rundown of what we were thinking. At the time, we were incredibly busy with the American 250 events, and we still, up until very recently, have been very busy with them. So I hadn't had it completely worked out to be able to present to them. Again, we were directed directly by the board, so we took that on, and it wasn't that we were trying to not bring this to public attention or to the committee's attention. We can certainly go and bring these things back, but I don't know if unless I was directed, it would be presented to them as it's presented to you here.
Well, typically this would be the kind of action or revision of a policy that you would want an advisory board to act on, wouldn't you?
That is correct, but as we were giving time limits, and the Citizens Advisory Committee, they meet only a certain amount of times, and in fact, the last time it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't even possible to meet because they didn't have a quorum. So to get everybody scheduled to be able to do that was...
Okay, well, we're pretty good at modifying time limits.
Okay.
So, and by the way, I appreciate the efforts that are in the revised policy to empower parents. I certainly agree with the chairman on that. I also share many of the concerns that Supervisor Gould has. My preference would be to continue this item and send it back to the advisory board for their input before we vote on this. I just like any other advisory board we have on this, they should take a look at this and evaluate it and give us their feedback.
Chairman Lingenfelter, Supervisor Lettman, we certainly could do that. The timeline would have to be adjusted. They meet, I believe, the next time, so it's every 3 months, so it's be the next time, I believe, is October? Yeah, we'll be in late October. Usually what we do is we present it to them, and they then at the following meeting, which would be in January, they would take a vote whether to send it up to you, which would be if we were not, like I said, if we were not directed by you guys as we had been, we would have gone that route. And we can certainly do that, and they can determine whether or not what we've placed here. And unless there are any modifications, I will submit it to them as we have submitted it to you. But I'm certainly willing to hear any modifications you might have.
Feedback on that. Excuse me.
I'm sorry, go ahead, please.
What was your question?
I was going to say, is that a motion? But continue.
Yeah, I'm getting ready to make one. So my preference would be, and I'm going to make a motion that we continue this item, okay, until it is presented to the Library Advisory Board and a decision back. And I don't want it to be January of 27. So if you need to call a special meeting of the Library Advisory Board to consider it, you can certainly do that, just like we can have special meetings. So I don't consider the once a quarter, cut and dry on when you have your meetings. So I'm going to make a motion that we continue this item. You come back after we receive feedback and approval by your advisory board.
Could I get some
Yeah,
clarification?
you wanna-
So
yeah.
if I could just have some dates, they're going to be meeting in October the next time. Do I call a special meeting, present it to them between now and October, and then they have a chance, so it's presented to them and to the public through one of these meetings, and then they would vote on it in October? Would that be a possibility?
Appreciate the question, Supervisor Levin.
Sure. I think that's a great idea. That's up to you and the county manager, okay, to decide how you want to do it with your own commission or advisory board.
So perhaps the second meeting in November, would that be acceptable to bring it back to the board?
Supervisor Levin?
Yes.
Okay.
So modified in the motion.
Second.
Any additional discussion? Hearing none? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes appear to have it. Do you have it? So ordered. Director, to you and your staff, thank you for all the hard work. I appreciate it.
And thank you, gentlemen, for tolerating me.
More than tolerate, sir. It's okay. Item 50, discussion, possible action. Approve staff to proceed with the application process for Mojave County's designation as a HUD Urban County Entitlement Community and to serve as the administration of Community Development Block Grant funding or direct staff to discontinue pursuit of Mojave County's designation as a HUD Urban County Entitlement Community. Director Smith. Good morning.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. So after having this presented to us, we did quite a bit of research and dug down into the weeds quite a bit. So what I'd like to do is walk the board through what we currently have and what entitlement is, and the pros, cons, and indifference, and then the price as well, the funding values. I think the funding values will drive a lot of this discussion as well. So we'll start with that. So currently, the current plan that we have right now is we have a regional account that we receive funds, and it comes from HUD, the state of Arizona. And Arizona then takes the funds and then distribute it amongst the communities. With that being said, we go through the process and we apply for the different funding opportunities and we present those to the board. With that being said, it then moves forward. We come up with 3 projects to this board, and this board then decides what they'd like to have the funds applied to. So it has to go to low or moderate funding for opportunities there as well for the community to use the CDBG program. Currently, there's 3 CDBG projects that are brought to this board. At the last board meeting for CDBG, I heard from the board that said, could we do something different? So we reached out to our colleagues at Arizona Department of Housing. They took that on, and they're actually in the process of looking to see if we could have a waiver. So there could be 5 projects from Mojave County, so that way each supervisor would have their opportunity to have a project within their area as long as it met the lower moderate income guidelines as it applies to CDBG. That's one part of it. Second part is the state special project. And why is this important? Because the state special project always is quite a bit of funding to the local areas as well as the county. The county has applied for state special projects as well. Recently, in this past month, the NOFO came out for $750,000 for state special projects. Those can also go to CDBG projects, and they're also for low to moderate income people. So with that being said, as we go through this process, we will see the totals for entitlement, and we will see the totals for the regional account, as well as the SP account, the state special project. And these are important because you're going to see quite a difference, vast difference in funding opportunities and the way that outlines. So when we think of entitlement, what has to happen? And that's what you directed me to do, is to look into that process, entitlement. Entitlement means that we are now going to do what Arizona Department of Housing did. So now we're going to oversee all of the programming, all of the funding, and how that looks. But to get there, we have to get the city's buy-in. And so what does that mean? For us to become an entitlement area, the city of Havasu must direct their decision-making to the Board of Supervisors, as well as the city of Kingman would have to direct their authority to Mojave County Board of Supervisors. Mojave County Board of Supervisors would have to come up with a plan of how they decide to allocate those funds. And what does that look like? So the entitlement dollars would come in. This board then would decide, okay, this is how we're going to allocate those funds, and those funds would be distributed to the cities. It could be every other year. Occasionally that happens in different areas. We saw that, or it could be every year. But the funding amount is going to get really small when we look at the way that actually allocates to the different areas and the cities. So those are some things to think about. Additionally, they currently have support for their staff through the admin funds that they receive for the regional and state special projects. They can use that to support their local areas. So they have staff that write for grants, do the administration of the grants, so forth and so on. That process would then change for the county, because we as the county would now be responsible for doing all the work that the Arizona Department of Housing did. So we, Mojave County, would be responsible for any funds that were spent, how it was allocated. We'd have to do the audits. We'd have to go through the process. We'd have to do all the paperwork. We'd have to hold the different meetings as it's required to meet all the legal guidelines. So we would have to do that. And that would take a lot to do. Not that it couldn't be done. It can be done. We have a talented office in the Community Services Department. No doubt that we could deliver on that. But with that being said, we still have to go through the process and look at the FTEs and how would that align. We definitely would have to hire more people to run this program if we took it as an entitlement to have that. Or we'd have to find a way within Mojave County to allocate those responsibilities within departments and what that would look like, because that would be a large undertaking. So I wanted to start with that and just kind of go through the process. And then, once again, the city of Havasu, as well as the city of Kingman, would have to sign agreements with us that they would become an urban county. They also then would lose their ability to apply for any special state projects. So any of the state special projects that come out, they would no longer have that ability to apply, as well as Mojave County would not have that ability to apply for state special projects. So in my memo, I just want to highlight the process, right? The comparison between the entitlement versus the current funding that we have. Entitlement, if you took the years from 2022 to 2026, it would be $8,853,122. If you take the state special contracts and the regional account, it would be $13 million, a little over $13 million. So, I mean, you can see the numbers of which way it lies, right? You get a lot more funding through the CDBG, state special projects, and regional accounts than you would if you went to entitlement. So I just wanted to share that. The only pro that I would say to entitlement is that you do have a little more control, but once again, that comes to this board and this board only, right? And then you pass that on to the other local jurisdictions. So I've talked a little bit there. I could go through some more pros and cons, but I think, you know, the hardest thing too is when you look at Arizona Department of Housing as opposed to working with HUD as a federal agency, we can pick up the phone and call 80 Arizona Department of Housing, and they respond to us directly, and we get our answers fairly quickly. I would say same day almost all the time, if not the following day. With our friends at HUD, it's a little more stringent. We do get our answers, but it does take time. And part of the process of me taking as much as I did to bring this back was to make sure that I could present this board with the details and the facts of entitlement and where it was. And so the process goes through there. Additionally, one other closing that I would add is in regards to entitlement. Because entitlement, when you think of how that works, City of Havasu has to join, the City of Kingman has to join, the county has to then fill out the forms, become an entitlement area, urban county entitlement area. Once all that's done, they can come and go. We can get out of it, come back to it. You can do that, but it takes time in the process of that. But one of the things that I would note is that with entitlement, the more people that join, so the more counties, cities, so forth and so forth that join, the pool gets smaller, right? So there's no guarantee what you're going to get for entitlement from one year to the next. So I would just make that note. And I've laid out the entitlement structure as well as staffing in the background. But that's pretty much, I think, trying to encapsulate it, which is pretty complicated, as short as possible that I could for this board. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Director Smith. Any questions? Supervisor Lettman, thank you.
I wanted to make sure I understood. So in order to go over to the entitlement method, the cities have to agree with that.
Chairman Lincoln-Felter, Supervisor Lettman, that is correct. The cities would have to join us in an entitlement area and move forward. So they would sign contracts saying they pledge that they will join Mojave County in an entitlement area. So yes, the cities have to join us.
And I think we'd probably both agree the likelihood of them agreeing to this is low. Yeah.
Chairman Lincoln-Felter. Supervisor Lettman, if I was a gambling man, I wouldn't want to take those odds.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Supervisor Lettman, or excuse me, Supervisor Martin, thank you.
Thank you. You mentioned Havasu and Kingman. What about Bullhead? Do they
Weird
not
formula.
count, or what's the deal?
Weird formula.
Director Smith?
Chairman Lincoln Felter, Supervisor Martin, thank you for that opportunity. So I've asked that question several times to HUD, and that answer has never been provided to me. What I can provide is that for us to do it, we have to meet a population threshold. The city of Kingman and the city of Havasu, along with the county, get us to that 200 threshold. I've never been given that exact answer, or even if we go entitlement, how does that affect Bullhead? So it was one of those things that we were provided this information through dialogue, and this is where we've got to.
How are they classified? I
Just a
don't
math thing.
Well, if it's on
Chairman,
population, excuse me, but
Yes.
if it's on population, don't we all have similar populations in our district?
Not an incorporated area.
Supervisor Martin, I think he's talking about incorporated municipal boundaries is what he's talking about.
Okay.
That's correct, Chairman.
Strange, because last time I checked, the incorporated municipal boundary count, the U.S. Census population for Bullhead was a little higher than the U.S. Census count for Kingman proper.
Chairman Lincoln Felter, that is
Interesting.
correct. That is
So they don't have any sort of designation at all?
Chairman Lincoln Felter, the way that was explained to me was that these two cities have to join Mojave County to become an entitlement urban county.
Yeah.
And nothing else, whatever Bullhead didn't matter. There was no explanation. I didn't really understand that myself, sent multiple emails, followed through. What I would say is that the city of Bullhead, we know they have 44,000, but I think the only thing I was thinking is if I did the calculation in my head, it said, is the difference between Havasu and Bull, and this is me just thinking out loud, is just the difference between Havasu and Bullhead. We know Havasu has more people than Bullhead. So when you look at population-wise, so if you look at that, maybe that's the only reason why it wasn't included in entitlement, because if Havasu dropped out with Bullhead and the city of Kingman, you wouldn't have enough to become that 200 threshold for the entitlement. That was my only thought behind that.
I clearly don't understand it enough either, because Bullhead has more population than Kingman.
Like I said, I think if...
Okay, well, we don't have to belabor the point. I appreciate you looking into this. I agree with my colleagues that there's no chance in heck that either one of those communities would give up their direct deal. So, any other questions? I don't think any action is needed on this unless someone wants to make a motion. Hearing no motion, the item dies for lack of action. Appreciate your presentation, Director Smith. Thank you. We'll move to item number 51. Discussion, possible action, approve reclassifying emergency manager position at pay range 22 to an emergency management administrator at pay range 24. Approve the emergency management administrator job description. Approve appropriation of $72,500 general fund contingency to fund federal emergency management grant fund 299-29930 for purposes of opening the emergency manager recruiting process early due to the 20-plus year incumbent's impending retirement, for purposes of enabling up to 8 pay periods of working overlap between a new hire and incumbent for critical institutional knowledge transfer estimated at $48,834, as well as PTO by payout up to 400 hours or $18,660, and position salary and benefits increase through fiscal year 27 estimated at $4,852, and further direct general fund reimbursement from Highway User Revenue Fund 205 in the amount of 2.5% of any financial assistance received through the Arizona Public Assistance Program for road repairs and reconstruction under the Gila and Mojave County flooding emergency, estimated at $18,512 maximum due to emergency management's efforts in administering road-related emergency response and claims processes. Director Latosky, you want to give an overview of this, please? It's a pretty big overview already, but did I miss anything?
Yes, Chairman Lingenfelter, members of the board, as you mentioned, the motion actually it gives quite a summary. Emergency management right now operates as a micro agency within Public Works, and this request from staff really considers emergency management really serving in indispensable service to the public in monitoring ongoing threats, as well as attending, of course, to small natural disasters, even the small amount of flooding that we received over the weekend. Emergency management was engaged throughout the weekend. The idea and request to reclassify this position of emergency manager administrator really attends to the administrator's ongoing role in carrying out the duties and activities of the emergency management director at the state DEMA level. There's an extraordinary amount of communication that goes back and forth between DEMA and county emergency management. Again, highlighted this week in Friday night's events with some of the flooding in and around State Route 66 and BNSF. State emergency management wanted to be up to date, on what was happening with the BNSF rail, and that communication goes on, like I said, regularly and involves a lot of meetings down in Phoenix. And then lastly, again, performing as more of a micro agency, the emergency manager just has two staff, two outstanding emergency management technicians, but it affords more of an enhanced direct coordination between the administrator level and outside county departments, which emergency management touches not only public works, but many other departments of Mojave County. And so the backbone of this request is in consideration of our outstanding emergency manager, Mike Browning, over 20 years of service to Mojave County, affording a substantial overlap between a new recruit, if we were successful in getting a new recruit in, and affording those two individuals being able to share institutional knowledge, and the new emergency management administrator really hitting the ground running going into the next year.
Thank you, Director. I'd open it up to the board for questions. Or I entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve item 51 as read.
Thank you, Supervisor. Do I have a second?
Second.
For that motion, second. Any additional discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Ayes appear to have it, do have it, so ordered. Thank you, board. Item number 52. Discussion, possible action, approve the award, signed contract number 2027-004 IFB, Mojave County Morgue Remodel to Low Mountain Construction Incorporated, Phoenix, Arizona, for the lump sum bid amount of $3,615,122, with a construction contingency of $542,268, approximately 15%. For Mojave County authorized essential work to address any unforeseen conditions and enable project completion, and a Public Works Administration fee of 1%, $36,151. The total construction cost is $4,193,541. Further, approve the revised total project budget of $5 million to include the previously awarded design services contract, additional project expenses as detailed in the agenda communication memo, and the total construction cost on behalf of Public Works Facilities Division. The revised project budget anticipates an overall budget to actual savings of $1 million. I'd open it up to the board for discussion. Supervisor Lippman.
Mr. Chairman, I had a question for Director Acton.
Director Acton, you want to come up to the podium? Thank you. Morning, Director.
So first of all, the one subject that we've tackled over the last 2 years has been this one, and I'm very happy to see this moving forward. I'm a little confused on, we had put extra money into this project 3 months ago, and now we don't need the extra money. Could you explain what happened?
Good morning. Thank you, Chairman Lingenfelter, Supervisor Lettman. We need some of the money that we requested. Ultimately, Director Latosky is actually prepared to give kind of a presentation on how we got here. I would say that we will give some credit to the Public Works staff for their value engineering and working under what we had was an engineer's estimate that had cautioned us that our initial staff estimate was not entirely accurate. That's why we came to the board in full transparency and said we think we're going to need more. I would also give some credit to my staff in working through and making sure that we responded to questions in a way that we got lots of bids and targeting bidders. We had 10 solid bids on this offering, and we had several of them in the same range as what we're recommending award. So we're comfortable that this is a good bid. We're comfortable that it's a contractor that can do the work. I think it's just a matter of procurement working very well with public works staff, with facility staff to get to an end result that we can move forward. We also, just for you guys to know, included an early finish incentive in this. I don't remember exactly what the dollar amount is, but if they finish early, we will use some of the contingency funds to pay out that early incentive. I want to say it's no more than a $10,000 payment to the contractor if they finish before the contracted deadline. But if you want more of a presentation of how we got here, I'd turn it over to Director Latosky to kind of walk through what his staff did to wrap up and make sure that we had clean specs.
Supervisor Letman, would you like to hear from Director Latosky?
Not really, if you don't mind. I'm confident in your work. I did have a follow-up question.
Please.
Are we going to get this done in time? July 1st, 27 is, what was that, 11 months away?
I will tell you, getting it on this agenda is based on the construction timeline that we have. We should be finished in time. I don't remember exactly what the dates are, but I think it was by the end of May. Yeah, so 240 days for construction. And like I said, we have an incentive in there. So if the contractor does finish early, there will be monetary reward to them for finishing a little bit early.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Gould, thank you, sir.
I'm glad to see it come in lower. I was gagging when I had to make the motion to spend that much money. And I'm going to be gagging when I make the motion to approve right now.
We appreciate the support.
There, I want to say that this process and this project is just proof of how a centralized, professional, certified public procurement department can actually add value to an organization. 10 bids is tremendous on this project. I also like the fact that we're being a little bit creative and outside the box on a cost plus time type of an incentive. I think that the citizens of Mojave County benefit from that. So I want to say thank you to your staff that was involved. I also want to say thank you to Director Latosky and your staff for your value engineering efforts, beginning with the end in mind. I think it's great. Any other comments? Otherwise, I'd entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
You've heard that motion second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes appear to have it. Do have it. So ordered. Well done, everyone. Item number 53, discussion, possible action, approve the staff plan to establish a new Mojave County Industrial Development Authority pursuant to ARS 35-701. Authorize the preparation and submission of all necessary organizational documents and direct staff to take all actions necessary to create the IDA, subject to all applicable statutory requirements. Director Ursenbach, good morning.
Hey, thank you, Chairman Lincolnfelter and supervisors for allowing me to come in today, and I need my presentation to be up. There's so much in there I needed a presentation to share.
Can we get Director Ursenbach's presentation?
They're working on it.
Okay.
I don't know how to get it up on the screen from here, but well, they'll have to put it on the screen. It's on mine now. I don't know how to get that.
There it is.
Perfect, thank you. At one point, the county had an industrial development authority, but it has not been in use for several years and did not have an active board. So Chairman Lincolnfelter and Supervisor Letman requested research a few months ago. I started the research to create the IDA, but that was put on hold until the old IDA was dissolved. To my understanding, that has happened, but to note that if it hasn't happened, it doesn't matter because we can still have 2 IDAs in the county with different boards and different agendas and focus. So the first thing is an Industrial Development Authority is a governmental entity created under Arizona law to promote economic development by providing financing for certain qualified projects. Once formed, the authority is considered a political subdivision of the state of Arizona and may exercise only the governmental powers granted by the law. The purpose of an IDA is primarily to facilitate the development and financing of projects that may benefit the community. Eligible projects may leverage financing, including infrastructure financing, financing for businesses, and including manufacturing, industrial facilities, commercial enterprises, research and development facilities, industrial parks, healthcare institutions, educational facilities, nonprofit facilities, transportation, and certain residential housing projects. At first, I was told the IDA was not able to actually lend money, but that is false. There are different financing mechanisms available through the IDA. I will talk about some of that later, but one of the most important powers an IDA does have is the ability to issue bonds to finance qualified projects. An IDA is not a duplication for Economic Development Department or organizations. They both have different roles in organizations and supporting economic growth. As stated before, the IDA's mission is to provide financing. Economic development's main focus is to provide the marketing, relationship building, and liaison between the levels of government, organizations, and project oversight for new and local businesses. The lack of infrastructure is always a challenge, and the ability to get it financed. Also, I have businesses with great projects, but do not have all of the financing needed in place available. It becomes a stopping point until they can move forward. My department can offer options, but it is up to the companies to do their own work and find their own financing. An IDA is an economic development tool lacking from our county to help move projects forward. Currently, I have several projects that are very close on moving forward, but they just need that extra little help. The discussion actually started as the need for financing a fuel tank at the airport in Bullhead City. The IDA would be able to issue bonds to help finance the project. Currently, my only option for bonding is through the Arizona IDA. I've sent several projects to the Arizona IDA, but especially for housing projects, but so far none of the projects have moved forward with the financing through them. Tools for the IDA are listed on the screen: tax exempt and taxable bond financing, infrastructure financing, but the one I wanted to talk about specifically on top of all of those that you can see is a revolving loan fund. And a revolving loan fund, you can get funding usually around $1 million to start, so that there's funding sitting there. You need a 20% match. Federal government, whether it's USDA or EDA, will give the 80% of that. And then you can have bridge loans or smaller loans available to businesses, and especially the smaller businesses, to get them going. But in the process, that particular project or for revolving loan funds, they usually charge a little bit more because we want you to go to the banks if they can get their loans. But if you can't, or you need the bridge funding, then the finance charge is a little bit higher, which comes back to the IDA, as well as the administration costs and the processing. Every year there's a fee for processing. So it costs the business a little bit more for a revolving loan fund, but in the long run, it helps to move those processes forward and the businesses forward. The next one, the IDA is a strong tool because it maintains an operational independence from county government. The IDA is able to make decisions specifically to financing needs in an expedient manner without the constraints of long county government processes. Through the strategic partnerships, the IDA could become Mojave County's financial catalyst for industrial expansion, infrastructure investment, business growth, housing, and entrepreneurial opportunities. The size of the projects could be small, or they could be in the hundreds of millions. The IDA will be created by the Board of Supervisors. The board will determine the size of the board for the Board of Directors for the IDA, and the Board of Directors can be as small as 3 or as many as 9. Is the recommendation from my department, from me, I guess I should say, is that it should be a 9-member board. And the reason is because number one, you want an odd number, obviously, for voting purposes, but also if each board member were to appoint one person from their district, and each city would suggest to the Board of Supervisors someone that they could appoint to the board, then it gets the buy-in from the city, number one. And number two, It takes about 5 years to get the IDA up and going financially really strong. You don't want a city to say, oh, look, that is something that we could do on our own, and have them come back and say, we're going to do that. And then it takes that business away from the current IDA that we're creating, and takes away from the funding that would come in and how it would actually support the whole county. Members of the board should have experience to be on that board, including a financial institution, a corporate law attorney, an engineer, someone in real estate or a title company, and then other targeting industries could be on there. But it needs to be very focused so that you have the right people listening and understanding to make those decisions. And then, I'm sorry, I've lost my place just a second. Oh, a board of directors should not, the board of directors for the IDA should not be an elected official or government employees, anyone from an economic development department or agency, or anyone that would profit financially from being on the board. By doing so, the IDA board of directors can function independently and use their best judgment without bringing in politics into the organization. Economic development members and team members need to be available and able to bring the projects to the IDA, but kept separate. They would just be not even as advisor, but just as a support. The executive director would be hired by the board of directors, and then would be over all the staff, the volunteers, and the committees. And that executive director should have a strong finance background to be able to do this. And then each committee should have at least one board of directors sitting on the committee, and to be able to give advice and return and report to the board of directors. There should be at least 4 standing, from the research I've done, and I'm going to put it that way. From the research I've done, there should be at least 4 standing committee that each, that would be able to be a special focus. That would be an advisory committee going back to the board of directors and working with the executive director. So a finance and audit committee, as we've seen with the airport in Bullhead, we need to make sure that they're being audited, that we have people that are watching and making sure that everything's going as smoothly as possible. A project review and finance committee. And that one, I know that I've sat on different boards before in other states, and that was our very strongest and most important committee, because we wanted to make sure that not only were we working with the right big people and projects, but that they were going to be able to pay the money back. The governance and nominating committee obviously explains itself, in the strategic planning committee, so that you can move forward and what that's going to look like down the road. Then to startup is important and can be funded through the county with a one-time offering, but should not be after that. It needs to be as self-sustaining as possible. The newly formed board of directors can also request one-time startup funds from the municipalities. They can go out and ask for funding from nonprofits and other companies, but I believe that's going to take some time past the first year to be able to get established and well-known. It is important that the IDA will be an independent, self-sustaining, as I said before, not dependent on any government after. So research does show, as I said also before, that it takes about 5 years for it to become not only sustaining but profitable. Funding sources will be determined by the board and recommended by the executive director, but bonding applications and yearly review fees bring in funding. They can buy and sell land, the revolving loan fund that we talked about, and that brings in processing and operational fees. They can actually go out and do consulting on land development and other types of consulting that can bring in fees. And then they can oversee infrastructure projects and become the project manager in charge for that. So this slide shows what was on the lower end of what it would cost to start an IDA. And some of those numbers may seem a little high, but one of them I know says economic site studies is $30,000, and you think, oh, that's a lot of money. But currently, applied economics has a study that they can use, but it costs, I think the minimum we could get them right now is about $10,000, maybe more, and then they can do other studies down the road. So it will take, even for something small like that, it's going to take quite a bit of money to get started. I do know that I started something, an IDA, no, let me rephrase it. I didn't start it. I sat on the board for an IDA because I did not start it. Because I know I did not have a lot of understanding with it, but it was with 7 counties in Utah. Our starting was $5 million, and 2.5 years later, we went back and asked for more money. So it does take a lot to get started. In this slide shows how we find bond investors before we ever find the projects. The bond investors work very closely with the IDA, and they bond and have the bond insurance. And then that project, when the projects come in, we pull that together and it goes out to the banks and or financing structures so that they can get the financing. And I'm the first to admit that finance is not my strongest suit. I work really well at relationships and bringing people in, but not on the finance end of it. And so I don't understand how to bond, but I know that there's training out there. Also, the next thing is we really need to have a standardized evaluation method. And this is an example of what that could look like. Again, it goes to the board of directors to decide and through the executive director and his team. But it would be important to be able to know what that looks like specifically prior to them ever having their first project. So every project is treated the same and every project is transparent. And so this is just a view of what that would look like. The application comes in, it's reviewed by staff, by the executive director and his staff, whoever that looks like. If it's approved, that's great. If not, it's returned. Goes on to an economic impact analysis. And what does that look like? How's that going to support the board? How's that going, and the actual IDA, and how's it going to support the community? Because everything they do needs to support the community, not just the IDA. Again, if it's denied, it goes back and reworked through the process or moves forward. And then project review committee, and then it goes to the board of directors. And then the last thing is we still need to make sure that they follow all government policies and procedures. So they would have to get an articles of incorporation set up and to become legal. And then having policies such as a conflict of interest policy, procurement, ethics policy, code of professional conduct, public records and open meeting compliance, and bond insurance policies and procedures. There are several places in the states in the state of Arizona that have already have IDAs, but the two that have been the longest is Prescott and Industrial Development Authority and the Yavapai County Industrial Development Authority, but both of those were created in the 70s and have been very successful. We also have the Arizona Industrial Development Authority, the one I told you I send people to because that's the one I know most about, and then the Greater Arizona Development Authority, Pinal County, and Maricopa County. And so with that, I know that they would probably all be willing to answer questions if you have any, because they've been around for a long time, but other than that, I'm available for questions.
Thank you for your presentation. I'd open up to the board for questions and comments. Supervisor Lettman.
Chairman. Director Ursenbach, that's a pretty stiff price tag associated with creating the IDA. I knew there was going to be a price tag. I didn't quite think it would be that high. You had a number of items on there, legal, HR, financial systems. Could we potentially have an IGA between the IDA and the county to provide those services at a much lower cost?
That might be a possibility. The concern would be, is that going to bring the politics into it? Do they feel like they need to owe the county because they're working with the county? And so that would have to be something would be specified, I guess, in the IGA. I don't have that answer other than that, but maybe Tingway does. I don't know.
Well, I don't consider our finance department to be overly political.
I understand that. I'm just saying.
Okay, and you said there could be potential contributions from the 4 incorporated areas. Yeah, okay. Makes sense. You said there were 2 different IDAs already in the county. That
No,
was
I
like,
said there could be. If the other one wasn't dissolved, we could still have this one move forward.
I misunderstood. What's your knowledge about we're talking about bonds and loans and revolving loans. Is there any risk to the county of loan default? I mean, I know you're not an attorney.
I am not an attorney, and the only experience I have is with the revolving loan fund, and there was no anything that would come back to the county I worked with. In fact, we had it for 5 counties or 6 counties, and we did not have anything that would default back to the county.
Okay, so basically to summarize, this board would create the IDA, would appoint the board of directors of the IDA, and would fund initially the IDA.
And yes, and only the first year.
Okay,
You
thank
wouldn't
you.
want it after that. They needed to be completely independent. Not just independent, but an independent government entity. So if any went back to them, it's their government entity. It's not our board.
Director Ursenbach, can you bring up your slide again with the breakdown, the cost breakdown, please?
All right, we'll go the other way. There we go.
Okay. This is far more comprehensive of a proposal than the type of IDA that's operated by Yavapai County, that's their sole function of that IDA. I've spoken to their bond counsel attorney. I've spoken to the lead on that. I mean, their sole function is to issue conduit bonds for qualifying projects. And they've been very successful. As you've noted, they've, I believe, since 1977, they've facilitated over $1.6 billion in bond financing for projects. I have a lot of questions about this slide. It claims that, according to online research, $520,000 in basic startup budget, but it doesn't provide any sources as far as jurisdictions, reports, links, methodology, comparable budgets. What is this online research, and where did you get this information?
So I went to several different, I don't know, out of state, not local, because some of the local ones I couldn't find their budgets for. So I went out of state and found budgets and found one of the lower ones I could find, as well as did just Google search. But mostly it was
Typically,
from
when you say online research, you might want to put a asterisk or something on the bottom, so that those that are receiving the information are able to see, okay, which jurisdictions did we look at to come up with this? What was the methodology, the comparable budgets? We could do some apples to apples, and we don't really have that information here.
And
This budget proposes a $135,000 executive director, a $70,000 administrative employee, benefits, industrial recruitment, marketing, trade shows, site visits, GIS, economic studies. Those are more, I think, of the functions of a staffed economic development organization. I don't think that they're, if you look in Arizona, that they're legally required to establish or operate an IDA in Arizona. Arizona law requires an IDA board, corporate documents, obviously council, accounting, compliance, all that stuff. It does not require a paid executive director, administrative employee, or recruitment program, a marketing budget, a trade show budget. I think that is not necessary. When you look at the Yavapai model and their IDA, and we could probably get them on the line and have them, talk to our board about how they set it up and what they're doing. I think it's a powerful example. They use an unpaid appointed board. They direct applicants to contracted legal counsel. Those projects that are interested, they foot all of the filing charges, the transaction fees. They require borrowers to cover all of the applicable financing expenses, and they've been very successful in doing that. As I said, $1.6 billion in bonds since 1977. They've accumulated enough fee revenue to begin actually making community grants. So that's another different way to do it. I don't think I am I don't know how we came up with this model. I think it's far more comprehensive than it needs to be. I'd like it, when I envisioned this, to be more like Yavapai's IDA and the way that they've done it, rather than this. This is more like proposing a fully funded and staffed economic development organization, and not a not a conduit pass-through IDA, which is what I think Yavapai is doing. So I can't support this proposal as it stands right now.
Well, that would be up to the board to change that. That's not, this was just a research that I was asked to do.
I would be, if you could go back, if you don't have it, you'd send to the board all of the online research, all the organizations you looked at to come up with that $520,000 figure. I would be interested in reviewing that. Any other questions? Supervisor Gould, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just curious, why would I want to form a funding operation to fund ideas that can't get private funding?
Sometimes they just need that bridge. Sometimes they've got the financing, but they just need a little bridge to get going. I have one project right now that they have an SBA loan, but they just are missing just a little bit of the 20% that they need. And so some of that would be a way to be able to get that to move forward.
Go sell a share.
They're not.
This stuff goes bad all the time. So you're talking about the airport authority. That's essentially, you're going to create this board and cut it loose to do who knows what and have no control over it other than when it comes time to reappoint a board member. They always say that this stuff's not going to come back on the government agency that created it, and I'm not sure that that's actually true. What's the security for the bonds?
I don't know that. I'm sorry. I just did the research I was asked to do from Chairman Linkenfelter and Supervisor Letman and the county manager.
Yeah, to me, it just looks like crony corporatism. You know, that we're going to pick winners and losers. The business guys that you appoint are going to then pick winners and losers. The free market is the only thing that works. The free market, everyone looks out for their own interests instead of rewarding their cronies for stuff. This is just a bad idea. Thank you.
I think that IDA in general, the way that the Yavapai does it can be a good tool. It doesn't come back on the county. It's not a part of the credit of the county. It's just a pass-through tool for bonds. Yavapai's used it very successfully. I know that there's a bigger one down in the valley that use it, and it's just another tool.
And if you want it just for bonds, that would be fine, I'm sure. The revolving loan fund, I know, is one thing that my department has tried to do, but we're not staffed. We don't have the knowledge to do that, and it really becomes a conflict of interest. It's better that we bring the people to whoever's got the revolving loan fund rather than us taking care of it internally. I did try to work with another agency to see if they would start a revolving loan fund for rural Arizona, and they chose not to do that.
Well, entertain a motion, or you'll die for lack of a motion. Okay, thank you for your presentation. We'll move to item number 54, discussion, possible action, approve and authorize the chairman of the board to sign the intergovernmental agreement between the city of Kingman and Mojave County to provide $30,000 annually through June 30th, 2027 in order to operate the yellow bus route. Manager Stroll. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This item is related to item 55. The idea was to utilize the lease proceeds to fund the yellow line. Unfortunately, the lease was not approved by the hospital authority last week, but I would request that this item continue or be considered, the IGA, and utilize contingency funds to go ahead and fund this for 1 year. And then hopefully the lease would be approved within that period of time, or we could include this in the budget or for consideration for next fiscal year, or discontinue the funding at that point. So the idea is if we could continue this for the year, because we had indicated that this was an important service, that I would request a little bit of a pivot to try to continue this for 1 year by utilizing contingency funds.
Thank you, Manager. Supervisor Martin.
Chairman, thank you. Did I understand that the college pulled out too?
That I don't know.
I believe that they are going to be participating up to $10,000 with advertising, in the form of advertising.
That was my understanding in
Okay.
meetings with them, yes.
Okay, so So we're not counting on that agreement with the board to fund this. We're going to look at taking out a contingency to fund that yellow line commitment.
For the upcoming fiscal year, yes.
Okay, all right.
Director Latosky, could you come up for a moment, please? I'd like to ask you a couple questions. I know that you and your professional staff have done a little bit of research on our Mojave County Sheriff's Office. I believe that they have a hangar out in the industrial park. Do we lease that hangar from the City of Kingman?
Chairman Lingenfelter, members of the board, to my recollection, there's a lease for the ground from the city.
The ground
of Kingman.
lease.
Yes, but the county owns the building.
And do you recall what the City of Kingman leases that ground to Mojave County for? Is it fair market value, or have they done us a favor? And do you remember any of that analysis as far as how long this ground lease has been? Has there been a cost savings to Mojave County General Fund over that time period? Can you enlighten us on any of that, please?
Yes, to my recollection, Chairman Lingenfelter, members of the board, it's been a long-standing lease dating back a number of years, possibly the late 90s or so. I do recall that the lease was set up as a fixed dollar amount with maybe a minor escalator in that, but I think in terms of the actual market value of the lease, it's quite competitive for the county, quite good for the county.
And do you remember, over the term of that, has there been a substantial cost savings to Mojave County? I mean, I think I saw an estimate in a memo that you provided that it was in the millions.
Yes.
That Mojave County has saved several $1 million over the term of that ground lease for our Mojave County Sheriff's Office. Is that accurate? Or
Chairman Lingenfelter, I do remember the analysis, kind of comparing it to what fair market value would normally bring, and I do recall a substantial cost saving.
Was it in the millions?
I wish I could remember specifically, Chairman Lingenfelter.
I think it was, I'm not going to speak for you, but I believe it was in the millions. I don't know if that Supervisor Martin's office got a copy of that analysis as well.
I think we did.
And I bring that up just, I understand that they're in a tough spot right now, and I would just say, in relation to that, I think one of the things that we were going to get out of this 1 year of funding, and so in that consideration, right, they've done us a favor, or maybe not a favor, but there's been a substantial cost savings to our Mojave County Sheriff's Office and that ground lease. I think it is in the millions. If you would do me a favor after this meeting, and please forward that analysis if you can find it to our full board so they can read it with their own eyes.
Yes. I can get it in 5 minutes.
I think that's something to be taken into consideration, but also I think from an economic development standpoint, I think one of the concessions that Mojave County was able to secure just from this one-time funding of $30,000 was that they were going to take the yellow route and they were going to reroute it out into the Mojave County Manufacturing and Training Center. And I think that that's very important for Mojave County as far as our economic development is concerned, is to make sure that there's a public transportation route out to that Advanced Manufacturing Training Center. And so with that, I would be supportive of this for 1 year. I'd open it up for further discussion. Supervisor Gould, thank you, sir.
Would that tie down be at the airport that used to belong to Mojave County before it belonged to the City of Kingman?
I believe that the county...
and I believe the county gave that airport to the City of Kingman.
They did.
Continue to maintain the roads that were out there too, at county expense.
Yeah, all of the roads that have been petitioned now are being maintained by the county.
If we're going to do this, it's not just a decision of $30,000. It's the decision of about $250,000, because there's other areas in the county that abut other cities. In my district, I have Fort Mojave that abuts Bullhead City. I have Desert Hills, Crystal Beach, and Havasu Heights that abut Lake Havasu City. If we're going to expand public transportation into areas near cities, there's a lot of people that might want that. But this is not really our obligation. But if you're going to make it our obligation, you need to be looking at $250,000, not $30,000. And people continue to tell me that we're broke and that they want me to put a sales tax up. But yet we continue to spend money. So, once upon a time they told me we had an $18.5 million shortfall. Gould, we need a sales tax. Suddenly that went away when I wouldn't budge on that. But let's take a look at what we're doing here with this $30,000. That $30,000 is the county's share of property tax from about 75 homes. When you boil it down to that, it's the tax that we get. This is going to come out of the general fund. The general fund is a property tax fund. That's about the equivalent of the average county property tax on 75 homes. I don't know how many homes we have, but break it down to the lowest common denominator. That's what it really boils down to, is we're going to give the city of Kingman our property tax on 75 homes that are inside of the county. Public transportation is not really our obligation, but if we're going to do it, then why not? We probably need to do it for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. The only reason that I would even consider this is the economic development component and actually getting a public transportation route to the Advanced Manufacturing Training Center and inside the industrial park, which is still in an unincorporated Mojave County. They have about 3,000 employment out there. So when you talk about 70 homes, 2 people per household, that's about 6,000 Mojave County residents. They support 3,000 jobs out there. And, I would say that there's probably 70 of those 3,000 people that need help getting to work right now. If you canvass a lot of the bigger industrial employers out there, American Woodmark, Crown, some of these other big employers that have big expansion plans up to 1 million square feet, ISCO Industries, Scott Industries, JM Eagle, they would be appreciative of this, I think. So I think for a one-time perspective, it's worth funding this. And if there's certainly another industrial concentration or a valid reason for Mojave County to get involved in public transit in an unincorporated area, I would be supportive of that in another district. Supervisor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's rather interesting. The community college should probably be the ones that are paying for this. If you take a look at the cost of going to school at the community college, it's almost identical to attending the state university, which when I was a senator, I thought that was just, because everybody has a mind picture that community college is cheap. Well, it's cheap for the student, but it's not cheap for the taxpayer. The university system is funded about half by the tuition of the student. The other half is paid for by the state. The state makes money on income tax and sales tax. But on the community college side, almost that whole burden is actually paid by the local property taxpayer. So you're looking about $12,000 or $13,000 for a full-time student. It seems to me that they could come up with some way to transport their students to the training center as they train them. I think that's a better model. They're pulling in a lot more money than we are in this particular aspect. And that's their job, is to train people. They take my money to train people to take away my job, basically, but I get no choice in participating or not because I own property. But thank you, sir.
Thank you, Supervisor. Any other discussion? Supervisor Martin?
Thank you, sir. This thing about the economic development part of it and component, there's also other components to this that serve the public that we represent. It's more than just going to the center out there. There's people that need this to get around to doctors' offices, come into town to go shopping, don't have vehicles. I think we have an obligation to assist those folks. Maybe not legally or whatever, according to Supervisor Gould, but I'm saying we have an obligation to help people. And we should be helping people. And this $30,000 to me is a good investment. It's a one-time investment, and it's a good investment that we should absolutely support.
Supervisor Martin, another example is the county is not mandated to maintain senior centers where people that can roll up into $150,000 motorhomes can come up and get a cheap meal.
Sure.
But we fund those anyways.
Yeah, we do.
Any other discussion? I'll make a motion to approve this item for 1 year.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. All opposed?
No.
Ayes appear to have it, do have it, so ordered. Looking for a motion to table item number 55 per Manager Straw's recommendation.
So moved.
For that motion, do I have a second? All in favor, please say aye.
Can you restate the motion?
Approve and authorize the chairman of the Board of Supervisors to sign a lease between Mojave County and the Hospital Authority District Number 1 for office space of 1,082 square feet in the County Administrative Building for a period from September 1st, 2026 to August 31st, 2031, pursuant to ARS 11-25601. Manager Strahl has requested that the board move to table this item.
So the motion was to table?
I believe it was to table, correct? Supervisor Letman, was your motion to table this?
Yes.
Any additional discussion?
I have a question.
Supervisor Martin.
Manager Strahl, did they say why they didn't approve it? I'm curious because I thought this was basically kind of a done deal with them coming to us and then we giving them a price and everything was good. And now all of a sudden somebody don't like it.
My understanding is they had some recent turnover of a number of board members and their staff person has to be replaced. So they're in a period of transition at this point, and they didn't want to commit to a lease based on this change of leadership.
Well, they're still going to meet in the garage or wherever they're meeting?
Yeah, whatever their current situation is, they would continue that, yes.
Okay, that's fine.
We have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? Ayes appear to have it, do have it, so ordered. Thank you, board. Item number 56, recommend approval for an extension of premises patio permit liquor license for William Kimball, Fraternal Order of Eagles, 4536 North Patsy Drive, Kingman, Arizona, for Labor Day Festival event.
Motion to approve.
For that motion, do I have a second? All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? Ayes appear to have it, do have it, so ordered. Thank you. Move to call to the public. First up is Aaron Roper. I think Aaron is left, but I do want to read, she wanted to speak to say thank you to all the county departments who worked to get Route 66 open at mile marker 65 this past weekend. Amazing. It was a drivable overnight. Armin Stange. Chuck DeSager, you're on deck. Thank you.
I'm in Stugger, Fort Mojave, aka the German. And again, a part of the fire department property. That's a before picture. That is when I woke up on, I believe it was Thursday. That was already on my phone before I got outside. And now we have to deal with the remnants of a burnt down motorhome on the fire department property. I think it's getting out of hand with the fire department. They need a kick in the butt so they get their stuff together. You know, I'm getting tired of seeing this stuff in my neighborhood dumped. And then we have Roseberry towing other vehicles in the school bus. He towed that in, 3-4 days ago? And all the motorhomes, he is getting back in there since Messler is cleaning up his property. Wonder why. And then in Felony Flats, between Andrews and Patina, they just towed another dilapidated single white motorhome, mobile home in there. The county needs to do something about all this garbage coming to Fort Mojave. You know, my neighbors are getting tired of it. I'm getting tired of it. Every time I drive to Smith or Safeway, I see another piece of junk parked in the desert. It's getting out of hand. Please do something. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Chuck DeShazer. Rob Christensen, you're on deck, followed by Sean Reagan.
Yeah, Chuck DeShazer, 8778 Polaris Road, Topak, Arizona. I've handed all of the supervisors a copy of the standard. On page 2, there's a lengthy article concerning Topak Elementary School. There's a lot of information in there. I am trying to bring this to the board to get on the agenda to get at least the board's blessing to take it to the state attorney general or the auditor general to get this school looked into as to all of the information that you'll find in there. Plus, other information is that over the summer, the school was used as a makeshift Pilates building by the superintendent. I've asked what the fee schedule is for the lease of the building in case I want to start up a satanic ritual or something, whatever I want to do with the facility, but they have no fee schedule, which is required by state law. And it was given to the superintendent of the Topak Elementary School to teach Pilates, and that should be of concern to you guys, because if somebody gets hurt on the facility grounds, it would come back on the county. But she was charged absolutely nothing, to my understanding. It was approved by the school board over there, and all the money went either cash or Zelle account into her pocket. So I'd like to bring that up. Another subject that I'd like to talk on is I watched the planning and zoning meeting this last week, and for whatever reason, I really don't have any idea why it was brought up, but they're discussing over July and August the RV permits required in Mojave County. None of the people that are up there between the pilot truck stop on 40 and down at the airport in Lake Havasu City, they're all out on BLM land, and there's not a septic tank to be seen out there. But the apparently planning and zoning wants to up the permit fees, and as far as I can tell, it was never brought up by Director Haltree or anybody else or this board to ask them to look into it. So during the discussion, they seem to think that by upping the fees, maybe they'll be able to get a handle on the mobile methamphetamine labs that are out in our desert. I have no idea where that came from. Have a nice day.
Thank you, sir. Rob Christensen. Sean Reagan, you're on deck, followed by Diana Francis.
Dr. Rob Christensen. I reside at 3951 Sorensen Drive here in Kingman. There are two issues that I want to address to the board. The first one I wasn't going to address until it was bypassed. On item 54, I had filled out a slip to speak, and I was not recognized, so...
Sorry about that, sir.
That's okay. I appreciate the apology, so we'll move on from that one. The second item, I sent a letter to the County Board of Supervisors regarding the awarding of a contract to the previous elections director, and I sent this letter on July 16th, and it was based off a article published in the Kingman Miner newspaper about the previous election director being eligible to earn up to $25,000 for services, and I've received no reply to my letter. And the reason I sent this letter is that I personally, and my wife also, we think it's disgusting that a previous county employee should get money for the job that should have been done before that individual retired. So I'd like a response to my letter. If the clerk needs another copy, I'll be more than happy to provide this copy to her.
You want to, yeah, give it to the clerk. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Sean Reagan. Diana Francis, you're on deck.
If I could just request a stool for next time so I can reach the mic, it would be great. Just kidding. So from last meeting that I was at, we were discussing some flock cameras, and there was a whole bunch of hoopla from that. But I just want to really briefly clarify some things. One, it's not the position of this current board or the position of the current sheriff or whether he would do anything nefarious or any of his staff would. Problem with it is that if we continue to allow this kind of effort and allowing, constant surveillance on the general public, we're going to have problems. And until it gets addressed to where there are some significant protocols in place, even until recently, we have officers in other jurisdictions already abusing that system. So my whole thing is that we can't constantly rely on the fact that it's always in the need of public safety or we're protecting a kid. I'd like to know the numbers, exactly how many children that were actually found using these cameras. I bet if it's 3. If it's 3, that's fine. If it's 1, it's fine. But we've got to understand that we're giving our rights away, and you guys won't all be around when these rights are given away to be accountable for it. Neither will the sheriff. Because whether it's in end of life or simple retirement, you're not all going to be here for that, and the decisions you make will affect us all in the future. So that was just one thing I wanted to share. The other thing is that I beat this dead horse to an absolute beef patty that, the veterans that I represent and that I help and that I assist, we're needing some assistance from y'all, whether it's in the form of a letter or whatnot. Our organization has applied for the Staff Sergeant Parker G. Fox Suicide Prevention Grant, which is a federal government grant, which would allow us to stop asking others and for the community to constantly help us with this program. It's ad nauseum. We're constantly being denied. We're, put on the back burner for next year. The vets that are passing away today from 22 a day are 28.3 a day now. The VA skews that a little bit to 17.6, thinking that they've made progress when it's actually went up. We currently have veterans that are dying at farther rate higher than there are Vietnam veterans alive. So the current veterans today are coming back, and they're not equipped with dealing with society after being in combat, and the level of service that they're given is abhorrent. I was on the phone for 48 minutes and hung up on and then given another alternative when I called just to see the 988 number. I apologize, I ran out of time, but we certainly need to address this, and any of those wish to contact me, please feel free. I'll leave my card. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Diana Francis.
Chairman, Supervisors, I appreciate the opportunity to speak today. I'm also running for the school board at the Topak School. I have real issues, and I've been constantly beating the drum for many years about the school, the lack of transparency, the whole family thing running all of it, and you can't find out anything no matter how you try. I and another person met with the superintendent / principal, and she said, because they said transparency. I said, yeah, I want to look at the books. And they said, well, there are no books, and there's no computers with financial records. They were not there when the ladies took over. So I personally called John Warren's phone number, his cell phone, and he said, well, you can call me anytime. I said, I want to know where the books and the computers are that hold the financial records for this school. He said, well, he left them when he left. So there's a definite problem. There's no computers and no financial records from when John Warren was there. The ladies said there weren't, and he said he left them. So that's a curious thing. We need answers, whether from here or at a state level. Somebody needs to look into that. Something's really wrong. And whether I'm on the school board or I don't get on the school board, I am like a pit bull with a bad cat. I am not going to let this go. That has to come out. So I ain't that smart, but somehow I'm going to make enough noise that the right person's going to listen. I'm tired of it. And then all the money they wanted for the school, ridiculous. And you keep hearing, well, we got to do it for the kids. That sounds like Hitler. We're going to do everything for the kids. How about it's a community? We work as a community for what needs to actually be done, not the nonsense. It's not all about the kids. It's a community. Then the superintendent, Miss Lee, told me if I can't pay my taxes, sell and move. Well, I lost all respect for her I might have had with that, and it's on. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Any comments from the board? Supervisor Burley?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to let folks know, I will be reaching out to the chairman of the Joint Legislative Audit Committee to have the Auditor General re-examine Topak Elementary. They've done a report before in another audit. I want another update on that. So thank you for bringing this to our attention.
Thank you, Supervisor. Any other comments from the board members? Hearing none, thank you all. We are adjourned.